Chapter 41. Jidong smiled and said, "My name is Jidong. Senior, have you forgotten? You even pleaded for me so that I could continue to be an auditing student in the Fire Academy." Zhu Tian suddenly said, "So it's you." Looking at the letter of recommendation in Jidong's hand, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Could it be that you've already?" Jidong nodded and said, "I was fortunate enough to condense the Yin-Yang crown. That's why I was recommended by President Yang. I came here with Car and Bissot. Please give me some pointers in the future, Senior." Zhu Tian was stunned for a few seconds before he came back to his senses. At this time, the impression in his mind was clear. He still clearly remembered that his sister once told him that this Jidong was a natural failure, yin and yang balance. A yin and yang balance constitution could also condense the yin-yang crown. In that case, he should be yin and yang dual fire, dual element? A bright light flashed in his eyes. Zhu Tian didn't say anything more. He nodded with a meaningful look in his eyes and said, "I hope you can all pass the entrance examination and inject fresh blood into our third fire major. Fill in this form and give me the letter of recommendation. With the form, you can enter." The form was very simple. One only needed to fill in their name, gender, magic element, and magic level. Jidong didn't hide his magic. Although he also knew that the flaming bar wanted him to hide his strength as much as possible for his own good, he was once the god of wine. Just like when he challenged the Bartenders Guild yesterday, he really didn't care about hiding his strength. Moreover, he still had the ultimate dual fire, which he wouldn't easily use, so he directly filled in the number of level 14. After seeing the level Jidong filled in, Zhu Tian's eyebrows jumped slightly. He stood up and smiled. "Let's go. There aren't many students entering right now. I'll send you in." Jidong and Zhu Tian looked at each other and saw Zhu Tian lightly nod to him. He immediately understood that Zhu Tian wanted to give them a hint before the examination. After all, they were all from the Fire Academy. Jidong's heart warmed slightly and he nodded back. At this time, a voice came from the side. "Brother Jidong, what a coincidence. We meet again." Jidong and Carl stopped in their tracks. On the other side, Bai Su, who had also completed her registration, also frowned. The one who spoke was none other than Night Sorrow, who was wearing the Earth Element's uniform. Zhu Tian was a bit surprised. "Senior Night Sorrow, you know my juniors?" Night Sorrow didn't have any students registering. He stood up and walked forward with a smile on his face. It couldn't be seen that he had lost to Jidong yesterday. "I just saw your juniors yesterday. Zhu Tian, your juniors are not bad. I wish you all good luck getting into the Heavenly STEM Academy. In the future, we will all be classmates." Seeing Night Sorrow's calm expression, Car and Bissot felt like they had been bitten by a poisonous snake. This Night Sorrow was clearly scarier than yesterday. Only Jidong still had that indifferent expression as if he didn't care at all. Zhu Tian said very politely, "Senior Night Sorrow, then I'll send them in to participate in the exam." Night Sorrow didn't say much. He just smiled and nodded. His gaze landed on Jidong's face and then he nodded back. His gaze was filled with kindness. It didn't seem like he had suffered a great loss at Jidong's hands. Zhu Tian led Jidong and the others into the Heavenly STEM Academy. As soon as he stepped in, his expression changed. He said in a low voice, "How do you know Ji Sorrow?" Jidong said with some surprise, "He has the same surname as me?" Zhu Tian nodded and said, "He's a famous dangerous person in the academy." The students of the Heavenly STEM Academy are divided into 3 levels: learning and cultivation. The lowest level is the students who have just entered the academy and haven't achieved 2 crowns yet. This is called the bachelor class. The middle level was for students who had 2 or more crowns, and those who had 3 crowns or less were also official students of the academy. Generally speaking, after cultivating to level 30 and condensing a 3rd crown, one could graduate from the academy. Compared to ordinary high-level academies, The Heavenly STEM Academy's requirements were a whole crown higher, and the students who were able to pass the entrance exam were all elites of the continent. However, within the Heavenly STEM Academy, there is another special group, which is the third level. That place is called the Yin-Yang Hall. Only students who have achieved 2 championships before the age of 16 can join. Each one of them is the cream of the crop, a stunning genius. As for when they graduate, that's not something I know. Ji Dong's heart skipped a beat. He said, "So that Ji Saro is a member of the Yin-Yang Hall?" Zhu Tian nodded with a serious expression. In the Heavenly STEM Academy, the competition is extremely fierce. The competition between the various elements doesn't differentiate between the yin and yang element. For example, our third fire element and the Fuhua series are definitely in the same camp. After all, we are both fire elements. The strongest element in the academy is undoubtedly the strongest element in the yin and yang magician, the earth element. Ji Saro is the leader of the earth element. Originally, he didn't need to show up for the registration today. I don't know why he's suddenly here. Carr and Bissot looked at each other. Needless to say, this Ji Saro was here for Ji Dong. Carr couldn't help but ask, "Zhu Tian, what level is this Ji Saro at right now?" Zhu Tian said in a low voice, "The only thing I can be sure of is that he has achieved 3 crowns. He entered the Yin-Yang Hall when he was 15, and it's been 6 years since then. He's 21 this year, and one of the top 10 students in the Heavenly STEM Academy. I'm just an ordinary student, so I don't have the qualifications to enter the Yin-Yang Hall. Naturally, I don't know his specific magic power level." Hearing Zhu Tian's words, Carr and Bissot couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. They thought, this is going to be troublesome. Not only did we offend a local snake, but a powerful one at that. 3 crowns was the level of the teachers in the Fire Academy. Even Lu Jun, whom Ji Dong had killed, hadn't reached that level. Ji Dong, however, muttered to himself as if nothing had happened. "I didn't expect him to be so bad at mixing drinks, but his magic power cultivation isn't bad." Saying this, he glanced at Carr and Bissot. "That's between me and him. If he wants to cause trouble, I'll play with him. Now we need to pass the freshman exam first." Zhu Tian frowned. "Ji Dong, did you offend Ji Saro?" Ji Dong smiled. "Senior, don't worry. I didn't offend him. It was just a small misunderstanding. The matter has been resolved." Looking at Ji Dong's calm expression, Carr and Bissot couldn't help but smile bitterly. Yes, the matter had been resolved. The whole Bartenders Guild branch in Central Plains City had been beaten by Ji Dong with his powerful bartending skills. Carr and Bissot wondered why Ji Dong didn't seem to care at all if they were in Ji Saro's shoes. Zhu Tian breathed a sigh of relief. "It's good that it's resolved. Walk from here to the center of the field. There are people in charge of the exam there. There is only one exam, and that is actual combat. 2 new students will work together to challenge an official student who has won 2 championships. The new students can form any combination, but it must be 2 people, and only 2 people. If they can withstand the attacks of an official student for 15 minutes, they will pass the exam. If not, they will have to leave the academy." Hearing Zhu Tian's words, Bissot couldn't help but ask, "Zhu Tian, what kind of exam is this? Isn't it supposed to measure magic power level? We students who have just condensed the Yin-Yang crown don't have any combat ability." Zhu Tian said, "This is the rules of the academy. I can't do anything about it. Every student who enters the academy has to go through this. In actual combat, everything you do will be recorded by the academy. In fact, this is the most comprehensive exam. Tests your overall quality. Alright, you can go. I still have to go help the other new students register for the exam." Zhu Tian turned and left. Bissot and Carr's gazes couldn't help but fall on Ji Dong. Ji Dong said, "2 people for the exam. You 2 just happen to complement each other. With your yin-yang combination skill, passing the exam shouldn't be difficult. Let's go. Bissot said, Boss, the two of us will work together. What about you? Ji Dong smiled slightly. What? You still don't believe in my strength? Thinking back to Ji Dong's valiance against the Greenwood Wolf King, Carr and Bissot felt relieved. The three of them walked toward the Heavenly STEM Academy. The Heavenly STEM Institute was indeed huge. They passed through a wide avenue, walked for at least 200 meters, and passed a huge screen wall with many human figures carved on it. Only then did they see the main field that Zhu Tian had mentioned. The main field was paved with huge green bricks that were 10 meters long. As far as the eye could see, it gave people a feeling that their field of vision was wide. This field was at least 10 times the size of the Fire Academy, and it was divided into different areas according to color. In the middle of the field was a huge banner for the new student exam. They could faintly see the light of magic flickering on it. The three of them strode forward and quickly walked over. On the flat field there were a few people fighting, and there were quite a few people surrounding them. Most of them looked to be around 16 or 17 years old, and Ji Dong paid some attention, and was surprised to find that there was not even a teacher here. Ever since he came to the Heavenly STEM Academy, he had not seen a single teacher, and the person in charge of the examination here seemed to be an official student of the academy. You're new students, right? Give me your forms. A youth of 18 or 19 years old walked up and took the forms from the three of them. He said, You'll be in groups of 2 for the combat exam. Quickly choose your partner. The ones standing on this side are the new students taking the exam. The ones on the other side are the scholars of the academy. Don't choose the wrong person. Come find me when you've made your choice. Many thanks, Senior. There were a total of 5 fighting fields in the middle, divided by wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. They were formed by different colored areas, and the students taking the exam didn't necessarily have the corresponding elemental attribute. It was just that the 5 battles were taking place at the same time. Every year, the Heavenly STEM Academy only sent a total of 150 new students to take the exam. With 5 battles per group, the exam naturally didn't take much time. Ji Dong observed carefully. There were 3 official students of 18 or 19 years old in charge of each field. One of them was in charge of the exam, while the other 2 were in charge of observing the process of the exam and recording it at the same time. The official students of the Heavenly STEM Academy, who were in charge of the exam, were mostly at the 23rd or 24th level. They wore 2 yin-yang crowns, and each of them displayed their demonic skills on the field, causing people to feel dazzled. The new students who came to take the exam were indeed the elites of the continent. Every one of them knew at least a few basic skills. The different colored yin-yang crowns gave people a dazzling feeling. Among them, Ji Dong even saw a new student of the 15th level undergoing the exam. Very quickly, this round of exam ended. 5 rounds were taken at the same time. Out of the 10 students, 8 had advanced. Only 2 were unable to last for 15 minutes. The next group of new students, get ready. Those who haven't found a partner for the exam, hurry up. An official student of about 20 years old said loudly. At the same time, the official students who were taking the exam earlier also retreated and were replaced by the official student who was in charge of recording the exam. Carr said, Boss, it seems that there are only a few people left. Our group is going up. Ji Dong said, During the exam, don't panic. Stabilize your state of mind. Don't be in a rush to attack. Try to conserve your demonic energy. When the opponent's attack is unblockable, use a combination skill. It won't be a problem to last for 15 minutes. Carr and Bissot nodded at the same time and went up to register. When Ji Dong turned around, he discovered that there were 8 new students who had come to take the exam, including himself. 6 of them had obviously already been paired up. Together with Carr and Bissot, they went up to register. There was only one exception. She was squatting there, pouting, looking wronged. It was a little girl. She looked to be only about 10 years old. Her eyes were filled with grievance, as if she was about to cry at any moment. So young? Don't tell me she's also here to take the exam? Ji Dong was startled. One had to know that the qualification for the Heavenly STEM Academy's exam was to condense a yin-yang crown. For an average person, they would only start cultivating at the age of 10. Don't tell me this little girl already has a yin-yang crown? Thinking of this, he walked up, squatted down, and said to the little girl, "Little girl, what's wrong? Are you also here to take the exam?" The little girl raised her head and looked at Hyoheim. Her eyes reddened as she said, "Yes, I'm also here to take the exam. But they aren't willing to be in my group. They say I'm too young and definitely don't have any battle strength. But I really have condensed a yin-yang crown." Two words flashed through Ji Dong's mind. Genius, this is a true genius. Little girl, I'm also here to take the exam. Are you willing to be in my group? Chapter 42. Really? When the little girl heard Ji Dong's suggestion, her beautiful big eyes immediately lit up. She suddenly stood up and grabbed Ji Dong's right hand. She excitedly said, "That's great. Big brother, you're really a good person. I'm willing to be in your group." This little girl's height didn't even reach Ji Dong's chest, but she was very beautiful. Her pair of intelligent big eyes were filled with childish innocence. Her unpretentious excitement even infected Ji Dong's heart. Ji Dong smiled and said, "My name is Ji Dong, what's your name?" The little girl giggled and said, "My name is Ling Yu. Can I call you Big Brother Ji Dong?" Ji Dong said, "Of course you can. Let's go." Seeing Ji Dong bring the little girl over, Bissot and Carr were surprised, but the other freshmen's eyes were filled with schadenfreude. Being able to come here to participate in the freshman assessment, this little girl who was about 10 years old was undoubtedly a genius. The official students didn't even doubt that if she could enter the Heavenly STEM Academy, she would become a member of the Yin-Yang Hall in the future. However, she was still too young. For the Yin and Yang magician, physical condition was equally important. Without a certain physique, even if one had enough magic power, they wouldn't be able to use any powerful magic skills. If they cooperated with a weak companion like Ling Yu, they wouldn't have the slightest chance of passing the assessment. This was also an important reason why no one chose to cooperate with her. What Ji Dong didn't see was that before they came, this little girl called Ling Yu had begged the freshmen to participate in the assessment one by one, hoping that someone would be in her group. After being rejected many times, she squatted there and felt wronged. Although Ji Dong wasn't very handsome in Ling Yu's eyes, this big brother was the best person. So when the two came to register, Ling Yu raised her chin arrogantly and didn't even look at the freshmen who participated in the assessment. Carr, 3rd Fire Element, Bissot, Fuhua Series, Group 1, you will face the official student assessment of the 9th element. Ji Dong, 3rd Fire Element, Ling Yu, 10th Element, The official student in charge of registration looked up at Hyoheim and the excited Ling Yu, and his expression suddenly became strange. After listening to his words, Ji Dong couldn't help but secretly smile bitterly. Among the 5 elements, there was no doubt that water restrained fire. How could a water magic master cooperate with a fire magic master? If Ji Dong's Yin and Yang dual fire combined together could exert the effect of 1 + 1 is greater than 2, then if he cooperated with Ling Yu's 10th element, which was also the Yin element, perhaps the effect of 1 + 1 would be less than 1. It seemed that he really could only rely on his own strength in this assessment. Don't you want to think about it? You can also wait for some new students to rearrange the combination. This is the first time I've seen a combination of water and fire, I'm afraid. The official student in charge of registration was still very kind. He looked at Ji Dong and reminded him. Ji Dong looked down at Ling Yu and suddenly saw that Ling Yu's big eyes were full of disappointment. Her 2 small hands were entangled in front of her body, and her eyes were red again. Raising his head, Ji Dong said, "There's no need to wait, I will cooperate with Ling Yu." I think my magic power might be a bit stronger. How about arranging a water element senior for us? The official student in charge of registration smiled and said, You are very kind, but I have to remind you that you only have one chance to take the assessment. Before he finished speaking, Lingyu suddenly raised her head angrily and waved her small fist. I won't be a burden to Big Brother Jidong. You are so bad, why do you want to stop Big Brother Jidong from being in my group? The official student scratched his head and said helplessly, Since it is like this, then you will be in the same group. I will assign an official student of the 9th element to take the assessment. The 10 new students were divided into groups of 2 and stood in 5 different areas. Lingyu stood beside Jidong, looked up at him and said, Big Brother Jidong, believe me, Lingyu will not be a burden to you. Jidong smiled and rubbed her head. Of course Big Brother Jidong believes you. How about this, after the assessment starts, you will wait for an opportunity from the back, and I will block the examiner's attack. Lingyu blinked her eyes and said, Okay. An 18 or 19-year-old young man came in front of them. He was wearing black clothes and there was a circular pattern on his chest. On the pattern, there was a graceful figure of a woman surrounded by countless ripples of water. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, but it gave people a feeling of being surrounded by water ripples. Lingyu saw Jidong's eyes fall on the pattern on the young man's chest and said in a low voice, Big Brother Jidong, that is the 9th element's totem, the Empress. Our 10th element's totem is the black tortoise. The official student of the 9th element, Hyoheim, nodded to Lingyu. My name is Luo Qingfeng, are you ready? Jidong took a step forward, stood in front of Lingyu, and said to Luo Qingfeng, Please advise. The student who was in charge of recording lit a stick of incense, and the eyes of Luo Qingfeng, an official student of the water element, instantly became sharp. A layer of black light rippled out from his body, and a surging magic power instantly condensed above his head. It then transformed into a white sun crown and hovered in the air. The sun crown of the 9th element was not much different from that of the 3rd fire element, but the pattern on the crown peak was in the shape of a water droplet, and the stars on the crown ring were black. Luo Qingfeng's sun crown impressively had 2 water droplet marks, and at the same time, there were 2 half-black stars on the crown ring. Impressively, he was a level 25 9th element master. At the same time that Luo Qingfeng released his sun crown, Jidong was not idle. A red light flickered, and a white sun crown condensed above his head. Under the control of his divine yin-yang lock technique, only one kind of magical power was displayed, one crown with 2 stars, level 14 3rd fire scholar. Behind Jidong, a gentle magical power fluctuation appeared at the same time, and a black yin crown quietly appeared above Lingyu's head. She released a purple magical power exclusive to the 10th element, 1 crown and half stars, level 11 10th water scholar. Among the 10 elements, the 9th element represented the yang element, like the water of a river, flowing for 1,000 miles, while the 10th element represented the yin element, also known as the water of rain and dew. If the 9th element was magnificent, then the 10th element was silent. What Luo Qingfeng brought to Jidong was a surging positive pressure, and behind Jidong, Lingyu, seemed as if she did not exist. The 10th element's magical power was quietly released, and a faint purple light condensed. Jidong knew that in this assessment, he was afraid that he could only rely on his own strength. If Lingyu made a move, it might affect him. Water restrains fire, and when the fire is strong, it may not be unable to restrain water, not to mention that he still had many trump cards. At the same time that the 3rd fire magical power was released, Jidong had already rushed up. Other freshmen were eager to delay some time after the assessment began, but Jidong did not have this idea at all. He did not think about the time. There was only one goal, and that was to defeat the opponent in front of him. Seeing Jidong rushing toward himself, the 9th element Luo Qingfeng smiled indifferently. His right hand stroked out, and the two sun crowns above his head shone with black light. 3 black water arrows condensed and went straight to Jidong's chest. If you look closely, you will find that these 3 water arrows do not have arrow tip. After all, this is an assessment, not a life and death fight. Obviously, he was being merciful. The black water arrows, with a cold chill, flew in a triangular shape. Hyohai moved, and Jidong did not dodge. His left leg quickly took a step forward, and his most skilled benchmark skill, Scorching Sun Devour, had already blasted out. Contrary to Luo Qingfeng's whole body shining with black light, at the moment of this punch, Jidong's third fire magical power suddenly disappeared and all condensed on his fist. The fist and the arrow collided, and strong steam rose. Jidong only felt that his right fist was cold, and his own third fire magical power was obviously weakened, but the magical power on his fist still burst out. The most powerful thing about third fire magical power was the instantaneous explosive power. There was no doubt that Scorching Sun Devour, the benchmark skill from the Flame Monarch, brought out the characteristics of third fire magical power to the fullest. Hey! When Luo Qingfeng saw Jidong's 14th level third fire scholar cultivation base, he did not take him seriously at all. There was no doubt that Yang water could subdue Yang fire, and his own cultivation base was far above Jidong. How could he have a chance? However, his 3 ninth water arrows suddenly disappeared in the fist of Jidong's Scorching Sun Devour. Although Jidong's body paused for a moment, the next moment, he had already jumped up, and the distance between the two had been instantly narrowed to within 10 meters. Good! Luo Qingfeng praised. Those who could be recommended to the Heavenly STEM Academy to participate in the assessment were really not simple. That seemingly simple punch was definitely a high-level benchmark skill. In the face of Jidong's frontal assault, he no longer used external magic skills. He stepped forward, and both his hands turned into palms and pushed out at the same time. Suddenly, the black light on Luo Qingfeng's body rushed up, turning into a black wave that went straight to Jidong. Although the surging ninth water magical power was scattered, the Yang water attribute was also fully exerted. With a magical power far beyond Jidong's, Luo Qingfeng did this undoubtedly to completely suppress Jidong in terms of attributes, not giving him any chance to make a comeback. Luo Qingfeng was surprised by Jidong's Scorching Sun Devour, and Jidong was also secretly surprised. The magical power of this official student in front of him was not as good as that of Lu Jun, but looking at the magic skills he used, and the choice of magic skills, all cleverly aimed at him, his actual combat ability was definitely above Lu Jun. Absolute suppression from the strength of magical power and attribute restraint? Jidong's eyes flickered, faintly revealing a layer of purple, and even his black hair, under the illumination of the sun, faintly emitted a deep purple light. A situation that Luo Qingfeng absolutely did not expect appeared. In the face of his surging ninth water magical power, Jidong did not stop rushing forward or even retreat as he had imagined, but instead accelerated again, his body slightly tilted, his right shoulder in front, and fiercely collided. The most peculiar thing was that the fiery red third fire magical power that he had originally emitted outside his body was actually restrained in an instant and retracted into his body. "Brother Jidong, be careful!" Ling Yu exclaimed from behind, and the purple 10th water magical power turned into a purple crystal light that floated out. The crystal light was only the size of a fingernail, and its flying speed was not fast, but after it was released, Ling Yu's small face was pale, and with a plop she sat on the ground. Boom! A scene that shocked the audience appeared. Jidong, who was only using third fire magical power, unexpectedly hit Luo Qingfeng's surging ninth water magical power. What was even more strange was that although Jidong's body trembled violently, he still forcibly rushed out of the black waves. How is it possible? The two official students in charge of recording stood up from their chairs, but what surprised them was still behind. At the same time as Jidong hit the black waves, The purple crystal light thrown by Ling Yu bounced on the ground, drawing a beautiful parabola, passing the attacks of Ji Dong and Luo Qingfeng, and directly falling towards the top of Luo Qingfeng's head. Luo Qingfeng also did not expect Ji Dong to be able to rush out of his area of effect magic skill. It must be known that this was a hit skill, not a benchmark skill, and it was an intermediate hit skill. Just at the same time as he was slightly stunned, the purple crystal light had already fallen. After all, Luo Qingfeng had rich combat experience. Although he discovered it a little late, he still subconsciously raised his hand and blasted out a punch. That purple was the 10th water magical power. He naturally recognized it. In his opinion, a 10-year-old girl who had just condensed the yin-yang crown, how much attack power could she have? And it was naturally normal for her to resolve it. However, at the moment when his fist collided with the purple crystal light, Luo Qingfeng immediately shouted, "Not good." A layer of bone-piercing chill appeared along with the disappearance of the purple crystal light. At the moment of contact, he only felt that a sharp ice needle had penetrated the 9th water magical power on his fist. Immediately after, the ice needle instantly exploded in his body, turning into thousands of strands and spreading out. The strong chill instantly invaded his body, passing through his skin, bones, muscles, and went straight to his internal organs. The sudden feeling surprised Luo Qingfeng, and he no longer paid attention to Ji Dong. The 9th water magical power in his body fully erupted, forcibly expelling the nourishing and silent 10th water magical power. But in this way, his whole body also stiffened, the black light emitted from his body constantly flashing, his face became pale, and he could not move. Squeezing through the surging black light, Ji Dong did not stop at all. The distance of 10 meters was covered in 2 steps. At this time, the yin-yang crown on his head instantly changed. The original pure white yang crown suddenly turned black and white, and the 3rd fire burning in his hands also turned blue on the left and red on the right, 3rd fire and 4th fire. The eerie blue light slashed out like lightning, and his left hand turned into a claw, flashing past. At this time, Luo Qingfeng was resisting the 10th water magical power that entered his body with all his strength. In desperation, he could only block it with his body. Chapter 43. It turned out that everyone had underestimated Ling Yu, the little girl. The magic skill she released, in terms of the degree of magic condensation, even Luo Qingfeng, who was at the 2nd crown level, was ashamed. If it was just an ordinary attack, with the difference in magic power between the two sides, he should be able to resolve it in just a moment, but in fact, he suffered a big loss, and Ling Yu's 10th water magic directly invaded his body. Qi, the deep blue fire, slid obliquely across the pattern of the Queen of Heaven totem on Luo Qingfeng's chest, dyeing his whole body with a layer of purple. Luo Qingfeng, who was resisting the 10th water magic, only felt that his body was frozen, and the blood in his body seemed to have solidified, and his magic power was stagnant in an instant. The 10th water magic that had been mostly offset was again causing trouble, quickly penetrating into his body. Luo Qingfeng was shocked. He didn't expect Ji Dong to be able to break through his large-scale magic suppression. That was his hit skill, not an ordinary benchmark skill. Moreover, when Ji Dong's claws touched his body, the flame was not strong, but in fact, when his claws touched his body, the chilling 4th fire suddenly broke out, as if blocking the operation of his magic power. The purple crystal light that Ling Yu had previously released was already certain that it was a hit skill, so it was so difficult to resist. If the skill that Ji Dong released was just an attack, then he would be injured at most. First, he forced out the 10th water magic in his body, and then confronted Ji Dong head-on. After all, his magic power was more than 10 levels higher than Ji Dong, and it was not easy for Ji Dong to resist under the counterattack. However, Ji Dong's Dark Moon Claw was not so simple as an attack. In addition to the surging 4th fire magic that instantly spread to his whole body and strongly corroded his 9th water magic, It also produced a second of paralysis effect. This second was almost fatal for Luo Qingfeng, because this second broke his resistance to the 10th water magic in his body, and then let the dark moon claw's 4th fire magic invade. This was the power of the two sovereign skills. Although the dark moon claw was only the most basic skill of the dark flame devil, it was still amazing when used. Of course, Ji Dong's movements would not stop here. He didn't know that Luo Qingfeng was still resisting Ling Yu's 10th water magic at this time. He was just a little surprised that his dark moon claw easily hit the opponent, but this could not stop his next move. The benchmark skill followed closely, instantly turned into a fiery red right fist, and hit the same position on Luo Qingfeng's chest. Boom! Luo Qingfeng's face first turned fiery red. Then, surging red and purple flames abruptly erupted from his body. Amidst his blood-curdling screams, he violently spurted out blood. However, he didn't fly out. The scorching sun's devour that Ji Dong's right fist had swung out had the ability to absorb the opponent. Unexpectedly, Luo Qingfeng slowly softened under the absorption of Ji Dong's right fist. Luo Qingfeng's dark claw out. Luo out. That of Ji's Qingfeng was that he was, and out. Luo. Qingfeng's read and fell. That Lin of skills. What's going on? How can a level 25 2 crowns 9th water master be so weak? Ji Dong's heart was filled with doubt. He hadn't used his ultimate fire. He had merely combined two of his benchmark skills to hit his opponent's body, yet it had produced such an effect. This was definitely something he hadn't expected. He had previously been able to break through Luo Qingfeng's large-scale mana suppression not only because of the power of his scorching sun blast, but also because his body had been soaked in dragon's blood, making it far stronger than an ordinary person's in terms of toughness. Furthermore, the frost dragon's body was of the water element. Although water could subdue fire, it couldn't subdue Ji Dong's skin, which had been soaked in dragon's blood. Thus, Ji Dong had been able to forcefully concentrate his power on a single point, and break through Luo Qingfeng's mana suppression. Luo Qingfeng's magic attribute was far above his, and his control over magic attribute was something that Lu Jun could not compare to. The 9th water element subdued the 3rd fire element, and water subdued fire. From Ji Dong's point of view, even if he was able to perfectly link 3 times, and then use the dark claw and the red, scorching sun to form 3 consecutive explosions, he might not be able to defeat Luo Qingfeng in one go. However, the truth was right in front of his eyes. Luo Qingfeng's appearance of spurting out blood wasn't an act. At this moment, his face was as pale as a sheet. He fell limply under Ji Dong's fist, and had actually fallen unconscious. Of the 5 freshman assessments, their side had undoubtedly ended the fastest. Both sides had only made contact for a short while, and the battle had already ended. However, the result of the battle was something that no one could have imagined. The 2 official students in charge of recording had already rushed over. One of them pushed Ji Dong away, while the other quickly checked on Luo Qingfeng's injuries. Very quickly, the student in charge of checking on Luo Qingfeng's injuries had a huge change in expression. He whispered a few words to the other student, and that student quickly ran out of the sports field. Ling Yu walked to Ji Dong's side with a pale face. Grabbing one of Ji Dong's hands, she said, "Big brother Ji Dong, he just vomited a lot of blood. It's so scary. You're really amazing. You knocked him down in just 2 moves." Ji Dong frowned slightly and said with a bitter smile, "I also don't know what happened." The student in charge of checking on Luo Qingfeng's injuries raised his head and fiercely glared at Ji Dong. He said, "The 2 of you aren't allowed to leave. Wait for the academy's teachers to come and deal with it." Luo Qingfeng's condition wasn't very optimistic. After fainting, blood was still gushing out of his mouth and nose. The red, blue, and purple lights on his skin flickered several times before slowly fading. Not long after, suddenly Ji Dong saw 2 lights flashing in the distance like fleeting shadows. The 2 lights were respectively green and black. They were the colors of the first wood attribute and the ninth water attribute respectively. Almost as soon as he saw the two lights, in the next moment, there were already two people in front of him. Both of them were middle-aged men, looking no more than 30 or 40 years old. On their heads there was a yin-yang crown shining. Now Jidong was not the ignorant teenager when he first saw Yang Bingtian. Seeing the yin-yang crown on the heads of these two people, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Both of them had a white sun crown on their heads. The man who was emitting a green light had 5 crown peaks branded with a green leaf pattern on his sun crown, and there were 4 green stars shining on his crown ring. The other man also had 5 crown peaks branded, but just like Luo Qingfeng, there was a black water droplet branded on his crown ring, and there were 3 black stars circulating on his crown ring. Among the yin and yang magician that Ji Dong had seen, only Yang Bingtian could compare with the two in front of him. The two in front of him were the 5 crown level 58 First Wood Great Grandmaster and the 5 crown level 56 Ninth Water Great Grandmaster. They were both 5 crown Great Grandmasters. As soon as these two people appeared, Ji Dong immediately felt a suffocating sense of oppression and subconsciously took a step back. The Ninth Water Great Grandmaster quickly took over Luo Qingfeng's body and pressed one hand on his chest. He saw a human-shaped gorgeous illusory light shadow appear behind him. It was very similar to the pattern on Luo Qingfeng's school uniform. It was the Ninth Water Totem, the Queen of Heaven. This totem would only appear after 3 crowns because the magic of the magician had reached a certain level. At the same time as the Queen of Heaven totem appeared, a faint black light turned into stars, like a crystal light, and quickly penetrated into Luo Qingfeng's body. Water and wood were the two best at healing, but the method of healing was not the same. The treatment of wood was mainly to stimulate the potential of the injured person to recover quickly, while the treatment of water was to nourish the injured person's body with water magic. Between the two, it was difficult to say which effect was better. This question had always been debated between the two, but from the actual situation, it was still determined by the level of one's own magic and the ability of magic skills. The strength of a 5 crown Great Grandmaster was indeed powerful. On the continent, this level of magician was already the top existence. Above 6 crowns, they were peerless powerhouses. With the infiltration of the Black Ninth Water magic, Luo Qingfeng's mouth and nose suddenly stopped bleeding, and his complexion eased a little, but the Ninth Water Great Grandmaster who was treating him frowned. The First Wood Great Grandmaster stood on the side and asked, "Ruhan, how is the situation?" The Ninth Water Great Grandmaster said in a deep voice, "Very bad, his life is in danger. Long Tian, help me, let's work together to save this kid's life." The First Wood Great Grandmaster Long Tian heard the words of the Ninth Water Great Grandmaster, who was called Ruhan, and was immediately shocked. "So serious? Who was it just now? Don't go, wait here for a moment." Lingyu was somewhat afraid and pulled Ji Dong's clothes to hide behind him, but Ji Dong said without hesitation, "I heard him." It was obvious that the 2 middle-aged men who appeared later were teachers of the Heavenly STEM Academy. Ji Dong didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. Fists and feet have no eyes, and magic is merciless. Moreover, how could he think that the seemingly powerful Luo Qingfeng was actually so weak? Long Tian and Ruhan glanced at Ji Dong at the same time, and their eyes showed doubt. Obviously, they could easily see the strength of Ji Dong's magic, and they didn't understand why he could hit Luo Qingfeng so hard. However, now was obviously not the time to explore these things. It was important to save people. The First Wood Great Grandmaster Long Tian's body was covered with a layer of faint cyan mist, and at the same time, a cyan dragon shadow appeared behind him. Compared with the phantom of the Queen of Heaven behind the Ninth Water Great Grandmaster Ruhan, it was slightly clearer. Obviously, at level 58, his cultivation was more profound than that of Ruhan, who was at level 56. The Ninth Water Great Grandmaster Ruhan also stood up, and a black mist surged out of her body. The The two looked at each other, nodded to each other, and raised their right hands at the same time. A magical scene appeared. Ji-dong was the closest and saw it very clearly. He clearly saw that in the right palm of the first Wood Great Grandmaster Long Tian, there was a small cyan sprout. Then, the cyan sprout thrived in his palm and soon turned into a cyan green leaf. On the other side, around the right palm of the ninth Water Great Grandmaster Ruhan, black spots of light quickly condensed and gradually condensed into a drop of black water. The movements of the two were extremely coordinated, as if they had cooperated countless times. At the same time, the brilliance in their hands bloomed. The green leaf stretched out in the air and floated away, and the drop of water fell on it in mid-air. Suddenly, when they came into contact, it suddenly turned into a layer of cyan and black light, sweeping up. The leaf suddenly enlarged 100 times, and Luo Qingfeng's body was gently wrapped in it. It could be clearly seen that all the veins of the leaf were black. The cyan and black light quietly merged into the leaf, and the two totem shadows of the Queen of Heaven and the Azure Dragon suddenly became particularly clear. The entire sports ground was shrouded by this indescribably huge magic. Everyone on the sports ground could clearly feel that their body was being nourished by this strange magic. Their body was also full of vitality, and almost in a few breaths, they had reached their best state. This is, Ji-dong's pupils suddenly shrank. Although he had never seen this before, from the scene in front of him, he could already guess that the two Five Crowns Great Grandmasters in front of him had unexpectedly used a combination skill. It was a Great Grandmaster combination skill, and it was also a combination skill that surpassed the attribute. The two attributes of water and wood were both good at healing. Their effects were different, but there was no doubt that when they were combined, they would have the strongest healing effect in the world. Ji-dong had also used a combination skill before, but what he had used was a combination of the different yin and yang attributes of fire. Whether it was third fire or fourth fire, after all, their origin was fire, so it was much easier to combine them. But this was the first time he had seen a combination skill that surpassed the attribute. He could deeply feel how terrifying the sudden increase in mana was. He could clearly feel that if these two great grandmasters wanted to, this combination skill could even completely cover the entire sports ground, forming a large-scale healing skill. What a terrifying healing effect! What made Ji-dong even more surprised was the control the two Five Crowns Great Grandmasters had over their own mana. The yin and yang crowns above their heads were emitting layers of intense halos. Not only were they releasing their own mana, but they were also directing the mana in the air for their own use. Moreover, the main healing effect of this combination skill was focused on Luo Qingfeng. Luo Qingfeng's complexion also clearly became rosy, and the rise and fall of his chest was clearly a lot faster. The light of the combination skill only lasted for a short time before dissipating in the air. The totem shadows behind the two great grandmasters also faded in the air along with the disappearance of the yin and yang crowns. Water Great Grandmaster Rahan nodded and said, "It's no big deal. Fortunately, we came in time to save this kid's life. However, his body's functions will need at least a month to recover. Alright, you two send him to the infirmary to recuperate. Don't eat anything for a day and a night." Chapter 44. After instructing the official disciples to send Luo Qingfeng to recuperate, the gazes of the two Five Crowns Great Grandmasters fell on Ji-dong and Ling Yu. The other four groups of examinees had already stopped their assessment. At this time, Ji-dong and Ling Yu had already become the focus of attention. Ji-dong also felt helpless in his heart. How could he have thought that he would encounter trouble as soon as he arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy? He didn't know why he had seriously injured an official student in charge of the assessment. Looking at this, let alone passing the assessment, it would be good if the other party didn't make things difficult for him. That ninth Water Great Grandmaster slowly walked in front of Ji-dong and said with a calm face, "Are you two the ones who seriously injured Luo Qingfeng?" Jidong said. No, it has nothing to do with Ling Yu. Everyone here saw it, I alone injured him. Ninth Water Great Grandmaster faintly smiled and said, You don't need to be nervous, I don't mean to blame you. You are not the first pair to injure an official student in charge of the assessment, nor will you be the last pair. Demonic techniques have no eyes, I can understand this, and the Academy will also not give you any punishment. I can tell you with certainty that you have now been officially admitted by the Academy. However, Luo Qingfeng's injury is strange. I hope you can cooperate with me to clarify the situation at that time. My name is Shui Ruhan, I belong to the Ninth Water System. So his full name was Shui Ruhan. The Ninth Water Great Grandmaster in front of him had a handsome appearance and looked to be around 30 years old. Jidong's senses were extremely sharp. Indeed, he didn't feel a trace of malice from this Ninth Water Great Grandmaster. Ling Yu, who was behind him, pulled Jidong's clothes and said, Big brother Jidong, I will go with you. Although Ling Yu is young, she also knows the word loyalty. First Wood Great Grandmaster Long Tian giggled and said, This little girl is really interesting. Let's go and quickly investigate this matter. Boss. Carr and Bissot ran over from the side and anxiously looked at Hyoheim. Jidong shook his head at them and gave them a reassuring look. You guys just work hard to take the test. Don't worry, I'll be fine. The two Five Crowns Great Grandmasters walked in front. Jidong held Ling Yu's small hand and followed behind. They passed through the vast field and walked towards the teaching building at the back. Walking into the Heavenly STEM Academy's Bishop's area, Jidong couldn't help but feel as if his horizons had been broadened. There were a total of 5 main school buildings, and every single one of them was an extremely grand building. Moreover, their colors and styles were all different, and they were arranged according to the north, south, east, west, and center. These 5 directions were also the positions of the 5 elements. The fiery red teaching building on the south side seemed to belong to the students of the fire element. The whole body was shaped like a flame. The black water element teaching building on the north side was shaped like a water droplet. The green leaf-shaped wood element teaching building on the east side was shaped like a green leaf. The metal element teaching building on the west side was shaped like a white cone. In the center of the teaching building was a round yellow earth element teaching building. Behind the 5 teaching buildings were the dormitories of the various departments. The two Five Crowns Great Grandmasters took Jidong and Ling Yu directly to the central earth element teaching building. As soon as they entered the door, they saw a yellow hall that was more than 1,000 square meters wide. At this time, the hall seemed very quiet. The 2 Great Grandmasters didn't take them upstairs, but walked to the center of the hall, where there was a huge 5-colored ring sign. Ninth Water Great Grandmaster Shui Ruhan turned her wrist, and a palm-sized token appeared in her palm. The token was black, and Jidong's eyes were extremely sharp. He could vaguely see the 2 words, Special 6 on it. A layer of dense black light radiated from Shui Ruhan's body. Suddenly, the black color of the 5-colored ring sign under her feet lit up. Unexpectedly, a black platform rose from the ground. Shui Ruhan put the token in her hand into it. First Wood Great Grandmaster Long Tian Hyoheim and Ling Yu waved to them, motioning them to come closer. With a creaking sound, the 5-colored ring under their feet suddenly took their bodies slowly to the ground. What a delicate mechanism! Jidong couldn't help but have a feeling of amazement. It was the first time he had seen such a clever thing. Obviously, this mechanism was related to the magic of the 5 elements. It was also related to the token in Shui Ruhan's hand. Without the token, it was obviously impossible to enter it. What the hell was this place? Why did the 2 Great Grandmasters bring him and Ling Yu here? Did they want to hurt him? Otherwise, with their strength, they could kill him with just a wave of their hand. With the mentality of taking things as they came, although Jidong was surprised, he quickly calmed down, but Ling Yu was a little excited and looked around. They felt the mechanism beneath their feet descend several dozen meters before coming to a stop. The token reappeared in Shui Ruhan's hand, and was imprinted on a depression in front of them. With a zha-zha sound, a door split open, and Shui Ruhan brought the two of them in. Entering it, because it was underground, it didn't make people feel suffocated. The air was very smooth. They walked into a corridor. On both sides of the corridor were totem patterns of various systems, and under their feet were the appearance of the 5 elements, flames, water drops, and so on. Shui Ruhan and Long Tian moved forward along the corridor and stopped at the wall on one side of the corridor. Shui Ruhan took out the token again, found a depression somewhere, and put the token into it, revealing the door. Finally, there was no need to walk anymore. This was a stone room of about 30 square meters. The stone door closed by itself. The walls of the room were illuminated by lights, and the whole layout was full of the aura of water elements. Shui Ruhan pointed to the chair next to her and said, "Don't be polite, sit wherever you want, this is where I live." Coming here, Ji Dong felt a little uncomfortable, which was caused by the mutual restriction of attributes. People with the fire attribute would never like people with the water attribute, but Leng Yu felt very fresh. She unceremoniously pulled a chair and sat down, looking around curiously. Long Tian and Hyoheim said, "Tell us all about the previous freshman assessment. Oh, by the way, tell us first, what are your names?" Ji Dong and Leng Yu reported their names, and the process was naturally narrated by the older Ji Dong. He did not hide anything and told the whole process of his battle with Luo Qingfeng. At that time, Luo Qingfeng was hit by Leng Yu's 10th crystal light. Ji Dong did not see it. At that time, his line of sight was blocked by Luo Qingfeng's 9th water magic. Shui Ruhan and Long Tian listened very carefully. After listening to Ji Dong's narration, Long Tian couldn't help but ask, "Are you a Bing and Ding dual fire attribute?" Ji Dong did not explain. At the same time, he raised his hands. Proving it with facts was obviously the best way. Red and blue, 2 colored flames rose from the palms of his hands. Seeing the dual attribute flames, Shui Ruhan and Long Tian looked at each other, and their gazes couldn't help but become strange. Shui Ruhan couldn't help but say, "Oh my God, there is another monster in the fire attribute, why not our water attribute?" Long Tian Hyoheim said, "Well, you are a dual attribute fire attribute, which is indeed more advantageous than the average magician. You can complete your own combination skills to hurt the opponent, but I have a few questions now. First, how did you break through Luo Qingfeng's large-scale magic suppression? You know, his magic is more than 10 levels higher than yours, and it is reasonable to say that it is almost impossible for you to rush out of his suppression. Second, even if you can break through his magic suppression, why didn't he resist when you attacked him? Instead, he let your combination skill hit him and produced such a strong killing effect? Thirdly, even if it was your combination skill, it still wouldn't be able to cause such severe damage to him. When we examined his body, we discovered that Luo Qingfeng's internal organs had suffered extremely serious damage. On the contrary, the damage to his skin, muscles, and bones couldn't be considered too big. With your magic power, it shouldn't be to the extent of being able to kill him in 2 strikes." Listening to Long Tian's questions, Ji Dong couldn't help but secretly nod. Worthy of being a teacher of the Heavenly STEM Academy, and even more worthy of being a 5-time champion. These questions all asked the key points, but what made him helpless was that, apart from the first question, the other questions were also questions for him. The first question is not difficult to explain. When I broke through Luo Qingfeng's magic suppression, I converted all my magic into the 3rd fire attribute, which is also the Yang fire. At the same time, the magic within my body was not in a hurry to erupt. When I used the magic skill to collide with his 9th water magic, I completely released the concentrated 3rd fire magic. The 9th water indeed restrains the 3rd fire, but the 3rd fire's explosive power is the strongest of all the magic attributes. Using its instantaneous explosive power to break through the surface, I was able to rush through Luo Qingfeng's obstruction. That's impossible. Shui Ruhan frowned and said, the ninth water is extremely restraining to the third fire. Once the ninth water magic comes into contact with your body, your third fire magic will immediately be eroded and melted, and it will be impossible to erupt with its original power. The difference between the two magic levels is huge. Even if you use the method of breaking through the surface, it is impossible to break through the suppression of a level 25 two-time champion magician. These people are really too smart. Ji Dong felt helpless in his heart and said, perhaps it's because I have a certain resistance to the ninth water. I once soaked my body in the blood of a high-level ninth water magic beast. At that time, my magic was not strong, so it didn't affect my body, so I have a certain resistance to the ninth water magic. A ray of light flashed in Shui Ruhan's eyes. She took a step forward and came in front of Ji Dong. Ji Dong only felt a blur in front of his eyes, and one of his hands had already been grabbed by Shui Ruhan. A cold energy appeared and disappeared. Although it was only for a moment, the cold aura almost made his divine yin-yang lock law unable to suppress his ultimate fire attribute. A look of sudden realization appeared on Shui Ruhan's face and she said, yes, you are not lying. Your skin is not only resistant to the ninth water magic, but also very tough, far more than ordinary people. No wonder. But, how do you explain the last few questions of Long Tian? Ji Dong shook his head and said, that I don't know, I have already said what I know. At this time, Shui Yu, who was sitting on the side, jumped down from the chair and said, Big brother Ji Dong doesn't know, but I know. I know your second question. At that time, that person couldn't move because he was hit by my fated skill, the 10th water soul essence. He must resist the invasion after the soul essence exploded, so he couldn't move. My 10th water soul essence moved in a parabola, so Big Brother Ji Dong's line of sight was blocked by the 9th water magic, so he naturally couldn't see it. 10th water soul essence. Hearing these words, Long Tian didn't care, but Shui Ruhan's face changed and said, You said you can use the 10th water soul essence? Who are you from the North Water Empire's Ling clan? Ling Yu blinked her eyes and shook her head. Grandpa didn't let me say it. Grandpa said that I have to be low-key when I go out. I can't tell them that I am from the Lung clan, and I can't tell them that I have the Yin-Yang crown at the age of 10. Including Ji Dong, the three men in the room couldn't help but have a smile on their faces. This little girl was too interesting. Shui Ruhan said thoughtfully, No wonder. If it was the 10th water soul essence, Luo Qingfeng was likely to be restricted when he was caught off guard. No wonder he was hit by Ji Dong's attack head-on. But even so, the damage shouldn't be so big. Wait a minute. Long Tian was originally sitting on the chair, but suddenly, he jumped up directly. His head almost hit the roof, and he grabbed Shui Ruhan's shoulder. His sudden action scared Shui Ruhan, but it also made Shui Ruhan shiver. The two of them had been together for many years, and their minds were connected. Looking at each other, Shui Ruhan already understood Long Tian's meaning. It can't be, right? Shui Ruhan murmured. Long Tian's eyes released a light of excitement and said, Apart from that, there is nothing else that can be explained. A three-element combination skill, a three-element combination skill, and it's a three-element combination skill. Oh my god, this is definitely a new topic. Ji Dong was puzzled and said, What are you talking about? Why can't I understand? Long Tian said, Don't say that you don't understand, we also don't understand very well. I can only vaguely guess the situation at that time. When your Bing and Ding dual fire combination skill broke out, the 10th water magic power in Luo Qingfeng's body was not completely expelled. In this way, the Bing fire, Ding fire, and 10th water magic power collided in his body in a special way, and it also produced a mutation, which is what we normally call a combination skill change. All of a sudden, a terrifying energy erupted and completely destroyed his ninth water magic defense, causing almost instant death damage. This should be the truth of the matter. Shui Ruhan added, and I can be sure that if it was outside the body, this is impossible to achieve. We have already tried it. It is impossible to complete a combination skill with a magic skill with opposite attribute. You two little guys can be said to have created a precedent. This discovery is too important, we must immediately report it to the higher-up. Long Tian nodded and said, hurry up and go directly to the Academy's board of directors. The school is about to start, and all the elders should be there. You are from the ninth water, so you should know better than me. I will accompany these two geniuses here. Haha, this time, I am afraid the whole academy will be shocked. Chapter 45. Shui Ruhan took a deep look at Ji Dong and Ling Yu, nodded, and left in a hurry. Ling Yu was still as innocent as a little girl should be, but Ji Dong was lost in thought. 3-element combination skills, and all of them were restraining each other. After listening to Ling Yu's description, Ji Dong understood that the little girl was not lying when she said that she would not be a burden. From Shui Ruhan's performance, it could be seen that the North Water Empire's Ling family was not an ordinary family. It was getting more and more interesting. After today's matter, his understanding of the magicians of the 10 elements had undoubtedly increased a little. Teacher, are you also graduates of the Heavenly STEM Academy? Ji Dong asked. Long Tian laughed and said, who told you that I am a teacher? Ji Dong was taken aback and said, you are not teachers. Long Tian shook his head and said with a smile, of course not, we are also students like you. It's just that we are more senior. Students? Students who have won 5 championships? Ji Dong immediately thought of the Yinyang Hall that Zhu Tian had mentioned before. Long Tian said, of course, if you insist on saying that we are teachers, there is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes, we will also perform some of the duties of a teacher. In the academy, we are considered a special kind of people. Ji Dong said, you belong to the Yinyang Hall. Long Tian was stunned for a moment and said, you also know about the Yinyang Hall? Ji Dong said, when I registered before, I heard a senior mention that he is also an official student of the Heavenly STEM Academy. Long Tian smiled and said, he only knows a little, but you are right. We do belong to the Yinyang Hall. In the hall, I am ranked 5th and Ruhan is ranked 6th. There is no age limit in our Yinyang Hall. As long as you don't want to leave and the academy feels that you have the potential to cultivate, you don't need to be in a hurry to graduate. Moreover, in the academy, our Yinyang Hall has the loosest control. Junior brother, this time your freshman assessment can be said to be shocking. Maybe you will be accepted by the hall. If that is really the case, you will be the lowest level students to enter the hall. Ling Yu blinked her big eyes and said, what are the benefits of joining the Yinyang Hall? Long Tian smiled. Then there are many benefits. However, the competition in the Yinyang Hall is also very fierce. Although we enjoy the highest standard of treatment in the academy, we also have to face dangers that ordinary students don't have to face. As for the specifics, you will only know after you become a true member of the hall. Ji Dong said, Senior, there's a student named Ji Yeshang in Yinyang Hall, right? What's his ranking? From Long Tian's words, he could already tell that the students of the Yinyang Hall were ranked. Moreover, from the fact that Long Tian and Shui Ruhan were ranked 5th and 6th respectively, this ranking was definitely based on strength. Long Tian said in surprise, you know Ji Yeshang? Are you also a member of Ji Clan? That's not right, the Ji Clan is all earth element, but you have 2 fire element. Ji Dong smiled faintly and said, we just know each other. Long Tian said, Ji Yeshang is indeed the most outstanding genius in the past decade. At the end of last year, he was already ranked 10th in the Academy's top 10. Then how many students does Yinyang Hall have in total? Ji Dong immediately asked. Ji Dong's questions were all unimportant, so Long Tian didn't hide anything. He said, Inyang Hall currently has 48 students. If you can be accepted as an exception, there will be exactly 50. It's been a few years since someone joined. Shui Ruhan hurriedly left her residence and went deeper underground. After passing through several checkpoints, she stopped in front of a 5-meter-tall 5-colored gate. She respectfully and cautiously inlaid the token with the words Special 6 on the side of the gate. Ruhan, the board members are in a meeting. If there's nothing urgent, don't disturb them. The door opened, and a slender woman around 25 or 26 years old walked out. She wore a light purple dress that accentuated her alluring figure and was full of mystery. Her short purple hair and purple pupils made her look like a mysterious spokesperson. Shui Ruhan said in a low voice, "Third sister, if there's nothing important, I wouldn't have come to disturb the board members. It's like this." He moved closer to the woman's ear and whispered something. A look of surprise flashed across the face of the woman called third sister. Nodding her head, she said, "Come with me." Shui Ruhan followed the purple-clothed woman through the door. After passing through a wide passageway, they arrived at a room that was 200 square meters in size. The walls of this room were covered in strange 5-colored patterns, and one could clearly feel the powerful fluctuations of magic contained in the walls. There were a total of 9 people sitting around an oval table in the room. They all had different appearances, but most of them were over 50 years old. Only the person sitting at the head of the table looked to be in his 30s, but his black eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life. It was somewhat incompatible with his appearance. The 9 people were all sitting on special big chairs, each with a different color. At the other end of the round table, there was an empty blue chair. In addition to the difference in color, each chair had a hollowed-out totem carved on it. The materials were different, but they were definitely treasures. As a 5-crown 9th Water Grandmaster, Shui Ruhan had been lowering his head since entering this room. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly. He was brought to the side by the purple-clothed woman. The middle-aged man at the head of the table frowned slightly, and his eyes revealed a questioning light. The purple-clothed woman quickly walked to his side and whispered something in his ear. "Oh? Is there such a thing? Ruhan, tell everyone about the situation." The middle-aged man's voice was even more different from his appearance. It was old and deep, and had a kind of captivating magnetism. "Yes." Shui Ruhan respectfully took a few steps forward and stopped 2 meters away from the long oval table. He bowed and said, "Greetings to the dean, greetings to the board of directors. It's like this." Then, he carefully explained the assessment of Ji Dong and Ling Yu, as well as his and Long Tian's judgment in detail. After listening to his story, everyone's faces showed some surprise. The red-clothed old man sitting on the big red chair smiled and said, "Bing and D dual fire element, interesting, really interesting. Let's not talk about the 3-element combination skill. I've heard of this dual fire element kid. I want to see him." The middle-aged man sitting on the head of the table smiled and said, "Brother Zhu, congratulations on having a talent in the fire element. Do you know this kid?" The old man in red nodded and said, "He's from Bingtian's distant fire academy. According to Bingtian, even he doesn't understand how this child managed to cultivate successfully. Yin and Yang balanced dual fire element, this is a first. I suggest that we make an exception and let him join the Yin-Yang Hall, and focus on nurturing him." "Old Zhu, I'm afraid that's not appropriate." The black-robed old man sitting on the big black chair opposite to the red-clothed old man sneered and said, "After all, he is only at the 14th level, and he is already 14 years old. If he can't reach 2 crowns before the age of 16, he doesn't have the qualifications to join the Yin-Yang school. We don't know how the cultivation of an evil master with a Yin and Yang balanced physique is like. Being able to achieve the Yin-Yang crown should be due to luck. Who knows if he can achieve the 2nd crown? If his cultivation stagnates in the near future, wouldn't it be a waste of time? The rules can't be broken so easily. I don't agree with old Zhu's suggestion. We should wait until he can achieve 2 crowns before the age of 16. As for the little girl from the Lung clan, I don't think it'll be a problem to make an exception and enter the Yinyang school. It's obvious that she can achieve 1 crown at the age of 10. Old Lung, I heard that this girl is the pearl of the Lung clan. Sitting beside the black-robed old man was a purple-robed old man. He lightly nodded and said, "You can be considered a rare genius of the Lung clan." This time, she relied on her own ability to obtain the recommendation to enter our Heavenly STEM Academy. I have confidence in this great-granddaughter of mine. Bang! The red-clothed old man slammed his palm on the oval table before him and stood up. The atmosphere in the 200 square meters room suddenly turned blazing hot as he said, "Old Shui, Old Ling, the two of you don't have to go along with each other. You can make an exception for the water element, but we can't. Don't forget, the Yinyang Hall's current leader is our fire element." The black-robed old man snorted and a trace of coldness suddenly spread out from his body. The scorching heat in the air disappeared. He said, "Old Zhu, that brat Fury isn't completely your fire element anymore. Stop glaring at me. Are you sure that this dual fire element brat is another Fury? All right. Let's not hurt the harmony." The middle-aged man placed his hands on the air, signaling the two of them to stop quarreling. Just based on the conditions of these 2 kids, they're not qualified to enter the Yinyang school. Their talents haven't been fully displayed, so we can't break the rules of the Yinyang school. However, don't you all feel that their triple elemental fusion technique is interesting? We've been researching the heavenly STEM demonic technique for so many years, but we've never managed to achieve it. So I've decided to make it a new topic. So I agree to make an exception for these 2 kids and let them enter the Yinyang school. Naturally, if they can't achieve 2 championships by the age of 16, they will be expelled from the school. What do you all think? Aside from Sire Zhu, Sire Shui, and Sire Ling, the other 5 directors nodded their heads. With a smile, the middle-aged man said, "All right, then it's decided. Yi Xin, you and Ruhan will go and handle the procedures for those 2 fellows." The purple-robed girl respectfully replied, "Yes." Only then did she leave with Shui Ruhan. The moment the 2 of them left, old Zhu and old Shui glared at each other once more before they furiously snorted and turned their heads away. The middle-aged man helplessly shook his head. "The 2 of you are really incompatible. It's been so many years, yet you're still quarreling the moment you see each other. The demonic saint passage that only happens once every 5 years will open in another 2 years. We'll continue discussing the candidates for the demonic saint hunt this time. The new batch of graduates has already been sent to the demonic saint battlefield, but the current situation isn't good. We'll need to discuss if the Academy should lower the entry requirements so that we can absorb more students to strengthen our defense." Ji Dong and Ling Yu were waiting in Shui Ruhan's room. Long Tian didn't talk much about the Yinyang Hall, but gave them a brief introduction about the Heavenly STEM Academy. The Heavenly STEM Academy was an all-elemental Yinyang Demon Academy, with students from all 10 elements. It was divided into 5 main teaching buildings, and each teaching building was occupied by one of the 5 elements, which was what Ji Dong and the rest had seen before. Beginner students below the 2 crowns were usually in the lower 2 floors of the teaching building, while official students above the 2 crowns were in the upper 2 floors of the teaching building. As long as their strength surpassed the 2 crowns, they could immediately be promoted without any additional assessment. From this aspect, it could be seen that the teaching method of the Heavenly STEM Academy was very different from that of ordinary demon academies. Here, the students' enthusiasm would be fully aroused. Students below the level of 2 crowns, no matter what element they were in, could choose up to 5 basic skills. Students above the level of 2 crowns, there was no limit to the number of basic skills, and they could also choose as many as 3 hit skills. This was an unimaginable privilege in ordinary magic academies. It should be known that any hit skill could reach tens of thousands of gold coins in the market. Beginner students had an identity plate system. Based on the different elements, they would have a plate engraved with the word first and wear it on the left side of their chest. As for official students who had 2 crowns, they would have a token. On one side of the token was the totem symbol of their respective magic element, and on the other side was their school number. Only the elite students of the Inyang Hall were the most special. Their token was the same as the one Jidong had seen Shui Ruhan holding. Not only was it a symbol of their identity, it also had many other special uses. The students of the Inyang Hall, regardless of whether they were training or studying, were all located in a secret underground base. Without a token, it was impossible to enter. The word special on the token represented special and special privileges. Positions were arranged according to the strength of one's strength. At the same time, any student of the Inyang Hall could challenge a student with a higher ranking than them at any time. However, they had to have the approval of the academy's teachers, and it had to be carried out in a formal setting. Once the challenge was successful, they would replace the opponent's ranking, and the opponent's ranking would drop by 1 place. Only outstanding students who reached the top 10 of the Inyang Hall would have the opportunity to learn killing skills. Such a system undoubtedly made the competition in the Inyang Hall extremely fierce. At the same time, it was also an important reason why Long Tian, Shui Ruhan, and the other 5 crowned great grandmasters were not willing to easily graduate and chose to stay in the academy. Who didn't want to learn killing skills? But it was easier said than done to defeat the higher-ranked students. Only by constant hard work could there be a possibility of improvement. If a group of geniuses worked hard in the competition, would the speed of improvement be slow? Chapter 46. The door opened and Shui Ruhan and Yi Xian walked in together. Seeing Yi Xian, Long Tian quickly stood up and smiled. "Third sister, why are you here?" Yi Xian smiled. "How could I not come when you made a big discovery?" Ji Dong's gaze only paused for a moment when he saw Yi Xian, but he didn't miss her at all. Yi Xian was beautiful, but she paled in comparison to the perfection of the flaming bar. Not to mention that his heart was already occupied by the red lotus. There was no room for a second woman. Yi Xian's beautiful eyes glowed with purple light. "Are these the 2 little guys?" Shui Ruhan nodded. "That's them. This little girl is from the Gui Water School, just like you. Your Gui Water School has gained another genius." Yi Xian smiled and waved at Ling Yu. "Junior, come, let big sister have a look." Ling Yu wasn't afraid, perhaps because they were of the same attribute. She walked forward and looked up at Yi Xian, who was much taller than her. "Big sister, you're so beautiful." Yi Xian giggled and said, "Little Junior, you're the sweetest. And this Junior, come with me. I represent the Heavenly STEM Academy to officially inform you that you've been accepted by the Academy. At the same time, an exception has been made to allow you to join the Inyang Hall. I'll take you to handle the admission procedures. From tomorrow onwards, you'll be a part of the Inyang Hall." As she spoke, Yi Xian held Ling Yu's hand and greeted Shui Ruhan and Long Tian before walking out. "We've really joined the Inyang Hall?" Ji Dong couldn't help but feel surprised. Although he didn't expect to learn anything in the Inyang Hall, there was no doubt that he wouldn't lack opponents in such a competitive place. At the same time, it would be a good way to improve his strength. Yi Xian didn't seem to care about Ji Dong's existence. She just held Ling Yu's hand and walked in front. Ling Yu looked back at Ji Dong from time to time and gave him a sweet smile. The deeper they went into the underground world, the more surprised Ji Dong was. The underground structure was quite large, and it seemed to extend inwards in rings. Walking inside was like walking through a maze. Yi Xian led them through a few turns, and after passing through a few doors, they arrived at a spacious room. Before entering, Ji Dong saw that the stone door outside was clearly engraved with the symbols of the 10 series totems. As soon as they entered the room, the first thing they felt was a wave of heat. Ling Yu cried out in surprise and hurriedly hid behind Yi Xian. A misty purple light was released from Yi Xian's body, enveloping Ling Yu and herself. At the same time, she turned her head to look at Ji Dong. Even the heat of the geocentric lake wouldn't affect Ji Dong, let alone here. Yi Xian saw that Ji Dong was looking around the room, but he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. In this spacious room, there were all sorts of metallic items scattered everywhere. Some could be identified as armors and weapons, while others were strangely shaped. It was impossible to tell what they were. The room was more than 5 meters tall and covered an area of 300 square meters. However, there was only one person in the room. He was wearing a tattered red robe and had a head full of messy red hair. He sat on the ground in a corner of the room, holding a metal object in his left hand and a small red hammer in his right. He muttered something and then used the small hammer to knock on the surface a few times. There was a huge furnace next to him, which was the source of the high temperature in the room. Yi Xian, Hyoheim and Ling Yu made a shushing gesture, indicating that the two of them should not speak and wait quietly. It didn't take long before the red-haired man threw the metal item in his hand to the side. When it landed, there was a violent crash. The metal item wasn't big, but from the sound, it could be seen that it was quite heavy. The red-haired man raised his head and looked at Hyoheim and the other two. He said, "Little Yi Xian, what's the matter?" As soon as he raised his head, Ji Dong saw that the red-haired man had a rough appearance. He had a big brandy nose and a pair of small eyes that were narrowed into slits. However, there was a glimmer of dazzling light in his eyes. When he entered the door, Ji Dong also felt the heat wave, but it didn't come from the furnace. Instead, it came from the red-haired man. Third Fire Demon Power. Such a powerful third fire demon power. Looking at this man, Ji Dong felt that he was looking at the core of the earth. This red-haired man actually had a magma-like temperature. One could imagine how powerful his third fire demon power was. Although Yi Xian was ranked third among the disciples of the Yin Yang Hall, and her strength surpassed Shui Ruhan and Long Tian, she didn't dare to neglect this red-haired man. She said respectfully, "Elder Zhu, it's the Dean's special permission to let these two juniors enter the Yin Yang Hall as an exception. Please make an identity token for them." So small. Elder Zhu's gaze swept past Ling Yu. He laughed and said, "So it's Bosling's juniors. No wonder. Which family is this kid from? How come I can't tell? How is this possible? Kid, come here." After Elder Zhu's gaze swept past Ling Yu, it stopped on Ji Dong. His small eyes that were previously narrowed into slits suddenly widened. He looked at Ji Dong in surprise and waved his right hand. Suddenly, Ji Dong felt an irresistible surge of heat wrap around his body. With a gentle pull, the surrounding scenery flashed past quickly. The big brandy nose was already magnified in front of him. Elder Zhu's bony hand directly pressed towards the position of the origin yin-yang crown on Ji Dong's chest. It was the most important place to condense energy. Being attacked, Ji Dong subconsciously blocked with his hands and used the dark moon dance. Because the distance was suddenly shortened, he couldn't use the scorching sun devour anymore. He turned his body sideways and pushed forward with his right shoulder. The mana in his body instantly turned into third fire, and he used the scorching sun collapse. The entire process was just like when Ji Dong was cultivating. His reaction was extremely fast. From the moment he was pulled in front of Elder Zhu to the moment he dodged Elder Zhu's palm with the dark moon dance, and the scorching sun collapse, the entire process was as fast as lightning. Yi Xian's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Obviously, she didn't expect Ji Dong to dare to counterattack at this time, and his movements were so smooth. Elder Zhu laughed and opened his hand, directly grabbing Ji Dong's right shoulder that was using the scorching sun collapse. With a boom, a red flame exploded from Ji Dong's right shoulder. However, he only felt a blazing energy coming from his right shoulder. His body went limp, and he could no longer use his mana. It's a very good basic skill. Elder Zhu was surprised again. His other hand pressed on Ji Dong's chest, and he felt the mana fluctuation in his origin yin-yang crown. Mana barrier? This time, Elder Zhu's expression suddenly turned serious. Then, his expression became extremely excited as he said, "Kid, where did you learn how to use your magic barrier?" Although his mana was strong, it was blocked by an invisible mana when it entered Ji Dong's chest. With Elder Zhu's strength, of course, he could easily destroy this blocking mana. However, if he did that, Ji Dong would also be destroyed by his powerful third fire mana, and he wouldn't be able to check the situation inside his body. Ji Dong said faintly, "I don't know what a mana barrier is." Looking at Elder Zhu, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel a trace of sadness in his heart. Without strength, one could only be trampled on by others. Yesterday, at the entrance of the Bartenders Guild, he even went to challenge them and showed the powerful skills that no one in the entire Bartenders Guild could match. However, after entering the Heavenly STEM Academy today, he met a group of strong people. He understood that in this world that belonged to the yin and yang magician, bartending could at most allow him to survive, but he could no longer get the respect that he had in his previous life. If he wanted to keep the pride in his heart, he could only continuously improve his own strength and reach the peak of the yin and yang magician's realm in the bartending world. You don't know? Then tell me, how do you usually train? Who taught you the method of training? Elder Zhu asked slightly anxiously. Ji Dong's eyes turned cold. In any field, it was a big taboo to ask about other people's secret skills. Although he was currently weak and was far from the red-haired strange man in front of him, it didn't mean that he would give in. What does how I train have to do with you? Why should I tell you? Ji Dong rejected him without any hesitation. Although he was unable to move, he didn't show any signs of fear. Don't be rude. Yi Xian, who was standing at the side, was shocked and quickly scolded Hyoheim. Ji Dong glanced at her. From his cold and arrogant gaze, Yi Xian couldn't see any respect. Instead, she saw a terrifying unruliness, as if he was telling her that she didn't have the right to scold him. Enough. Elder Zhu stopped Yi Xian from continuing. At the same time, he let go of Ji Dong's hand and said, "I've been presumptuous, but I'm curious. Your magic is very unique. It seems to be of the same type as mine, but it's different. Young man, can you tell me why? I can give you something in exchange." Yi Xian exclaimed softly, and her eyes subconsciously showed some envy. Ji Dong said calmly, "There's nothing strange about me not wanting your things. I'm of the Bing and Ding dual fire element." As he spoke, he raised his hands at the same time. The red and blue flames reflected each other, and on top of his head, a black and white dual star yin-yang crown appeared. Dual fire element with yin and yang balance? Dual fire element with yin and yang balance that can convert magic? From Ji Dong's scorching sun blast earlier, the red-haired strange man could tell that he could convert his dual fire element. This discovery immediately made him even more shocked. He murmured, no wonder you were accepted as an exception. Very good," as he spoke, the red-haired strange man stood up and walked to the side. He took out a few pieces of metal and walked to the huge furnace. He paused for a moment before putting the pieces of metal into the furnace. Yi Xian hurriedly said, "Ji Dong, number 49, dual fire element. Ling Yu, number 50, Gui water element." Standing in front of the huge furnace, the strange red-haired man did not seem to feel the temperature in the furnace at all. With a wave of his hand, a crimson light fused into the furnace. Suddenly, the flames in the furnace became scorching hot, and there was even a hint of green. Although the room was huge, the temperature also rose rapidly. Yi Xian had no choice but to increase the output of her mana to protect herself and Ling Yu. Ji Dong was standing very close to the furnace, but just like the red-haired strange man, he did not feel anything, which made Yi Xian click her tongue in wonder. After a while, the red-haired strange man actually reached into the furnace and took out a few pieces of metal that were already burning red. He took out his small red hammer and began hammering on them. Ji-dong simply sat on the ground with his legs crossed. The fire element here was extremely rich, so waiting would be a waste of time. He actually sat there and cultivated, absorbing the rich fire element in the air to replenish his previous consumption of magic. At the same time, he was also thinking about Elder Zhu's words. In terms of strength, Yi Xian was even stronger than Long Tian and Shui Ruhan. Her cultivation was naturally above level 58, and she might even be a powerhouse at the level of 6 crowns. However, she was so respectful to this red-haired man. It was obvious how powerful this man was. With such a huge gap in strength, he was still unable to detect the situation of her magic. Why was this? There must be some special reason. Was it because of his yin-yang vortex? No, that was unlikely. It was more likely because of his divine yin-yang lock technique. Not long after, the red-haired strange man finished hammering on the furnace. 2 tokens appeared in his hands, and he handed them over. One was purplish-black with the words, "Te" carved on it, and the other was fiery red with the words, "Te" carved on it. Ji-dong was stunned. He looked at the red-haired strange man. He clearly knew that he had the yin and yang fire element, so why did he still give him a token that represented the Bing fire element? The red-haired strange man said to Yi Xian, "Little Yi Xian, take this little girl out first. Help this kid with his admission procedures. I have something to ask him." Yi Xian replied respectfully, "Yes, I will come to pick up Junior Ji-dong in 2 hours." The red-haired strange man waved his hand at her impatiently, indicating for her to leave quickly. Yi Xian didn't dare to tarry and left with Lingyu. Lingyu couldn't help but call out, "Big brother Ji-dong." Ji-dong nodded at her and said, "Go, we are all in the academy. We will meet again very soon." Bang. The door closed, and only Ji-dong and the red-haired strange man were left in the room. The red-haired strange man snorted and said, "Kid, do you know who I am?" The smile that Ji-dong had when facing Lingyu had already disappeared. He said indifferently, "I don't know." The red-haired strange man said, "They all call me Second Brother Zhu. In the Heavenly STEM Academy, everyone, including the teachers, treats me with respect. Even the Academy's board of directors doesn't dare to offend me, because I am a magic weaponsmith." A magic weaponsmith? The red-haired strange man's words attracted Ji-dong's interest. Chapter 47. That's right, I'm a great magic weaponsmith. The red-haired man seemed very pleased with himself at the mention of his profession. He even raised his head proudly. The way he was acting now was a bit like how Ji-dong acted when he was mixing drinks. But who knew that after hearing the red-haired man's words, Ji-dong would reply coldly, "What does your profession have to do with me? I've never heard of a magic weaponsmith." What did it feel like to have a fly thrown into a person's mouth while they were laughing in delight? That was exactly what the red-haired man was feeling right now. What? You don't even know what a magic weaponsmith is? You're too ignorant. Let me put it this way. An excellent magic weapon that suits you is enough to increase a magician's strength by 10%. The most powerful magic weapon I can create can even increase attack power by 20%. Do you understand now? Ji-dong nodded and said, "I understand. But what does this have to do with me?" "You." The red-haired man almost choked to death. He had never met a student like Ji-dong before. He couldn't help but ask, "Kid, don't you want a magic weapon that suits you?" Ji-dong shook his head and said, "No. Firstly, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You definitely won't give me one for free. Secondly, I've just started my training. Relying too much on external objects is not good for my own strength. That's why I'm not interested in whatever magic weapon you're talking about. If there's nothing else, I'll train here for a while and wait for that senior to pick me up." With that, he sat down on the spot and didn't look at the flabbergasted red-haired man again. You! The red-haired man pulled Ji Dong up in exasperation and said, Brat, don't play tricks with me. Don't think that I can't see that your flames are mutated. Although I don't know what method you used to conceal your mutated flames, I'm sure that you're not just a simple Bing and Ding dual fire. This time, it was Ji Dong's turn to be surprised, but his surprise only lasted for a moment before he calmed down and said, So what? Could it be that the Heavenly STEM Academy has a rule that they don't accept students with mutated magic power? Second brother Zhu suddenly laughed and said, Haha, I guessed it right. No matter how cunning you are, you still had to drink the water I used to wash my feet with. Now that I've made a ruckus, you've exposed yourself. Mutated flame, it really is a mutated flame. I'm really a genius. Looking at him, Ji Dong was speechless. Although second brother Zhu seemed to have gone crazy, he was still fooled. Kid, let me see what kind of mutant flame you have. How many years has it been since I last saw a mutated flame? Like I said, with the balance of yin and yang, how could it be possible to condense a yin-yang crown? There must be something fishy. Puzzled, Ji Dong asked, Is that why you think I have a mutated flame? Second brother Zhu chuckled and said, Of course it's not that simple, but I won't tell you. Ji Dong said indifferently, Letting you see my mutated flame is no big deal. I'll let you see your secret in exchange. Tell me first and I'll let you see, or else we'll break up. Second brother Zhu snorted and said, What a cunning kid, telling you is no big deal. What kind of place do you think the Heavenly STEM Academy is? It's not just the fire element, the other magic elements have also tried to cultivate the yin and yang element. Although there aren't many people with the balance of yin and yang, the Heavenly STEM Academy has found at least a dozen of them in the past few hundred years. However, all of their attempts have failed. Even with the Heavenly STEM Academy's powerful teachers, they still couldn't cultivate a dual yin and yang magician. How could your success be so simple? The only possibility I can think of is a mutated flame. Is it of the thunder element? Thunder can be divided into yin and yang. Using the yin and yang dual flames to hide your thunder element, how smart. Ji Dong said indifferently, Unfortunately, you guessed wrong. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. What kind of existence was the Heavenly STEM Academy? They had even experimented with the balance of yin and yang so many times. This wasn't as simple as cultivating students, it was also part of research. He really didn't expect that he would be discovered as soon as he arrived here. Second brother Zhu hurriedly said, Quick, let me see your mutated element. If it's not thunder, then what is it? I don't believe you. Don't worry, I'll definitely keep your secret. I'm probably the only one who can guess that you're a fire mutated element, because my teacher was in charge of cultivating dual yin and yang students. He devoted his entire life to cultivating dual element magicians and was never willing to admit that dual yin and yang didn't exist. It wasn't until the moment before his death that he told me that unless it's a mutated element, it's very difficult for yin and yang to coexist. This secret is also something that only I know. Why should I believe you? The way Ji Dong poured cold water on second brother Zhu was very displeased, but he couldn't do anything about it, especially when he might see the barrier that his teacher had been unable to break through his entire life about to be opened in front of him. His eagerness and excitement had replaced everything else. Frowning, second brother Zhu raised his right hand and said solemnly, I, Zhu Yan, swear in the name of the fire god that after seeing little friend Ji Dong's mutated flame today, I won't tell anyone else. Otherwise, the fire god will abandon me and strip me of all my magic power. A thick layer of red light suddenly erupted from his forehead. Then, a flame blossomed in the center of his brow and slowly melted into his skin. The contract is done. Is it okay now? Second brother Zhu looked at Ji Dong anxiously. Ji Dong had learned in the Fire Academy that a magician would never easily make a contract, especially a contract that required one to swear an oath to a god of their own element. the consequences were even more serious. Raising his hands, Ji Dong's eyes flashed. Suddenly, his entire temperament changed. A domineering might that seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth was instantly released. He held his head high and puffed out his chest like a king in control of everything. Above his head, a black and white yin-yang crown instantly condensed. Then, the yin-yang crown rapidly changed. The original red and blue stars instantly turned gold and black. At the same time, a special flame filled with endless pressure appeared in each of his palms. Even a powerful fire magician like second brother Zhu immediately felt the pain of his own fire element being completely suppressed the moment Ji Dong released the ultimate dual flames. The fire behind him instantly dimmed. Even though Ji Dong was standing in a corner of the room, the flames in his palms had become the core of the entire room. This is... Second brother Zhu's body trembled uncontrollably. Looking at the flames in Ji Dong's palms, tears streamed down his face. Binwu primordial yang sacred fire, Dingxi netherworld spiritual fire, ultimate fire, two ultimate fires actually appearing on one person at the same time. The flames disappeared. Ji Dong asked in surprise, "You know about these two flames?" Second brother Zhu stared blankly at Ji Dong and said, "Of course I do. Only those who have reached the 9 crowns and have the exclusive title of the strongest fire magician can compress their own demonic power by 100 times to form the ultimate dual flames. The legendary fire of extreme yang and extreme yin. Is it true? Are these really the ultimate dual flames?" Looking at second brother Zhu, Ji Dong seemed to see himself in his previous life, when he was completely immersed in the wine culture. The obsession in his eyes was exactly the same as Ji Dong's. Ji Dong couldn't bear to look at second brother Zhu, so he nodded and said, "Yes, this is the ultimate dual flames. What's with the lightning element you mentioned just now?" Second brother Zhu murmured, "Lightning is a variant of fire. Its attack power is even more terrifying than Bing fire. It is also divided into yin and yang, yin lightning and yang lightning. However, very few people have such an element. The biggest characteristic of the lightning element is that it is not countered by the water element. Instead, it is countered by the earth element. However, compared to the ultimate dual flames, what is the lightning element? Kid, you are not a genius, but a genius that only appears once in 100 years. You hit it well. If you didn't hide your ultimate dual flames, I wouldn't have a chance." At this point, second brother Zhu suddenly seemed to have changed into a different person. He looked at Ji Dong with a face full of smiles and said, "Little brother, how about we make a deal?" Ji Dong looked at him cautiously. He thought to himself, "Those who are unaccountably solicitous must have evil intentions." He said, "What for?" Second brother Zhu's smile was even a little flattering. He said, "Little brother, after meeting you today, I feel that we hit it off very well. Why don't we become sworn brothers of the opposite sex?" Ji Dong's eyes widened. He said, "What kind of joke is this? How old are you?" Second brother Zhu said bashfully, "I'm not that old. I'm only 97 years old." "That's not old? I'm 14 this year. It's more than enough for you to be my great-grandfather, and you're only?" Ji Dong looked at second brother Zhu, speechless. Second brother Zhu said unhappily, "Which of those old fellows in the Academy's board of directors isn't over 100 years old? I'm only 97, so of course I'm not that old. Brother Ji Dong, you should know that there are many benefits to becoming sworn brothers with me. If anyone dares to provoke you in the future, you can come find me. I'll help you take care of them. As long as it's not those old fellows in the board of directors, no one in this academy is my match. Also, if you need any magical weapons in the future, just tell me. I'll make them for you for free. What do you think?" How could Ji Dong be fooled so easily? He said, "Then what do you want me to do?" Second brother Zhu chuckled and rubbed his hands. He said, "Well, you know that when it comes to forging, the flame is the most important. Although I'm a third fire divine master, sometimes I still feel that the temperature of the flame isn't enough. However, your ultimate dual fire is different. Not only is it extreme yin and yang, but it's also tough and soft at the same time. With your help, my forging level will definitely rise to a new level. It won't be a problem even if I become the best in the world. Who knows, I might be able to forge exclusive equipment like the 10 great divine weapons one day. Jidong frowned and shook his head. No, I can't promise you that. I still need to cultivate. Moreover, with my current strength, I won't be able to last long with the ultimate dual fire. I won't be able to help you much. Second brother Zhu scratched his messy red hair and said, That's true. You're only level 10 or so, and your mana is far from enough. Alright, there's no hurry. How about this, when you reach the level of the 3 champions, you can help me forge magical weapons. I don't need much, I'll only need you for 6 hours a week. The ultimate dual fire isn't used for forging, it's used for instantaneous purification. What else do you think the ultimate dual fire is? Jidong said calmly, Let me think about it. My cultivation is still far from reaching the level of the 3 champions anyway. Second brother Zhu seemed to have suddenly thought of something. He turned around and ran to the corner to search. After a while, he found 2 pieces of something and ran back. Brother, look at this. He handed over the item in his hand. When Jidong looked at it, his body trembled. He had seen these things before. Back when teacher Xia Tian helped him open the door to becoming a magician, he had used these 2 items to give him magical power. What appeared in second brother Zhu's hand were 2 crystal crowns. They were the same as the crystal crown Xia Tian had, one black and one white. The white one emitted a red light, while the black one emitted a blue light. However, they were much larger, about the size of a ping-pong ball, and much thicker. Most importantly, these 2 crystal crowns looked very similar to the yin-yang crown. Even if Jidong didn't know what a crystal crown was, he could tell that the quality of the 2 in front of him was much better. Crystal crown? Jidong asked doubtfully. Second brother Zhu said, It's good that you recognize them. These 2 crystal crowns are both top-grade, priceless treasures. I've forged so many magical weapons, but I've never been willing to use them. I'll give them to you. With them, your cultivation will be twice the result with half the effort. Jidong said, What are these crystal crowns used for? When I first started cultivating, I used 2 pieces of awakening magic power. Awaken mana? That's a waste of resources. Crystal crowns have many uses. They themselves are the purest form of mana. High-grade crystal crowns are 10 times more effective than the cores produced by magical beasts of the same level. If you absorb it directly, you can at most increase your mana by a little, but if you embed it into a magical weapon, it can greatly increase the weapon's effect. I understand now, you must be absorbing low-grade crystal crowns. Those things are trash to me. Crystal crowns are the same as cores produced by magical beasts. They are also divided into 10 levels. You can think of them as the same thing, but the effect of a crystal crown of the same level is 10 times that of a core. These 2 crystal crowns in my hands are probably the 2 highest-grade crystal crowns in the entire academy. They are both level 7 treasures. Of course, this is my private collection and has nothing to do with the academy. I'll give them to you. With them, your mana absorption speed will increase by at least 15%, and your cultivation will be much faster. Let me think about it. How about this? I'll forge them into a magical weapon suitable for you. Chapter 48. A level 1 crystal crown and a level 7 crystal crown were obviously 2 different concepts. Jidong still remembered clearly that Master Xia Tian had once said that a level 1 crystal crown was worth thousands of gold coins. Wouldn't the value of a level 7 crystal crown be several times higher? He wouldn't accept such a big favor. He shook his head and said, No, it's too expensive. I can't accept it. Second brother Zhu said, Jidong, we're brothers from now on. As an older brother, It's not too much to give a younger brother a gift, is it? How about this? If you think it's too expensive, then just treat it as my payment to you. As long as you can provide me with ultimate dual fire for 6 hours every week after you've achieved 3 crowns and assist me in forging, these 2 Class 7 crystal crowns will be your remuneration for a year. As he spoke, there was even a pleading look in his eyes. Ji Dong was secretly shocked. Looking at second brother Zhu's expression, it seemed as if he had gotten the better end of the deal by giving away 2 crystal crowns. The ultimate dual fire actually had such a huge effect, and the situation before him was undoubtedly a win-win situation. He had just arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy, and it could be said that he had no friends and was weak. Second brother Zhu could indeed be of great help to him, and more importantly, Ji Dong was indeed very interested in the crystal crowns. Brother Zhu, then can you tell me what is the difference between the crystal crowns and the cores of magical beasts? Why is the effect so much stronger than the cores? Second brother Zhu was overjoyed when he heard that Ji Dong had changed the way he addressed him. The biggest difference between crystal crowns and cores is that they are produced differently. Cores come from magical beasts, while crystal crowns come from. At this point, his expression changed slightly. He paused and said, "Brother, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but this is something that only students who have achieved 3 crowns can know. I can't tell you now, but don't worry, the crystal crowns won't have any side effects." Second brother Zhu said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. I've never been willing to use these 2 crystal crowns. They contain almost the same amount of energy, so they're perfect for you. However, I can't give them to you now. I'll help you make them into magical weapons. This will be more beneficial for you. Since you've already joined the Yin-Yang school, you'll be living here in the future. I'll go find you myself. Keep the medallion well. It's the symbol of your status as a special student of the Yin-Yang school. With it, you can come and go as you please. Of course, you can't go to the core area. The underground area is called the Yin-Yang school, and it's divided into 6 large areas. With your ranking, you can move freely in the outer 3 areas, but not the inner 3. As for how to learn, Yi Xin will naturally teach you." Ji Dong nodded. Even without second brother Zhu's reminder, he would still work hard to improve his own strength. Coming to the Heavenly STEM Academy, where there were so many strong people, was a big motivation for him. More importantly, he had made a promise to the Flaming Bar. Ji Dong swore in his heart that one day, he would have the strength to protect the Flaming Bar. At that time, he would be able to express his love for the Flaming Bar. Thinking of the Flaming Bar, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel a warm feeling in his heart. People always needed motivation to move forward. Many people called this motivation as faith, and Ji Dong's faith was the Flaming Bar. 2 hours passed by quickly. When Yi Xin returned, Ling Yu was no longer by her side. After bowing to Elder Zhu again, she brought Ji Dong out of the magical weapon making room. "What did Elder Zhu say to you? I can tell that he's very interested in you." Yi Xin asked Hyoheim. Ji Dong smiled faintly and said, "Nothing much. He just asked about my dual fire element. After all, he's also a fire element." Yi Xin gave Ji Dong a meaningful look and handed him a sheepskin map. "Indeed, your dual fire element is enough to amaze the mentors of the school, even surpassing the genius Ling Yu. This is the map of our Yin-Yang school. Don't wander around and cultivate in your room. Don't go to the red areas on the map, or you'll have to bear the consequences. Every morning, you have to gather in the hall on the 1st floor of the school. You're a new member of the school, so there will soon be a special mentor to guide you. Every disciple of our Yin-Yang school will have an exclusive mentor. You must respect the mentor and cultivate hard. Remember, if you want to stay in the school, you must achieve at least 2 championships before the age of 16. Before reaching this level, you can't be considered an official student of the school. You can only be a preparatory student." As she spoke, Yi Xin brought Ji Dong to the outermost circle of the Yin-Yang school. Each circle here was actually a floor. The deeper you went, the deeper you went. The place where Elder Zhu was previously was the third circle, which was also the third floor. Xin asked Jidong to sneak the token he had just obtained into a groove in the wall and inject a little third fire magic power into it. The door opened. You've just arrived at the school, so rest early. You can also walk outside at any time. The disciples of our Inyang school have their own special cafeteria. The location is marked on the map. The token is the symbol of your identity in the school. Our school doesn't have any red tape like the opening ceremony. Remember to gather in the hall on the first floor tomorrow morning. Got it. Thank you, senior sister. Xian's explanation to Jidong was very simple. After all, water and fire were incompatible between any water magician and fire magician. The layout of the room was very simple. The size was similar to Shui Ruhan's room. There was a bed, a table, all made of stone, and a brand new set of toiletries and 2 sets of school uniforms. Jidong unfolded the school uniform and looked at it. There was no mark on the bright red school uniform. Even compared with the Fire Academy, it was much simpler. In a way, the Heavenly STEM Academy was much more casual than the Fire Academy. He finally settled down, but he couldn't rest yet. He didn't know how the assessment of Kar and Bisso was going. Holding the map and the token, Jidong left the Inyang school and returned to the playground. The entrance test on the playground was still going on, but Kar and Bisso were nowhere to be seen. Seeing Jidong's appearance, the official students who were responsible for the freshman assessment of the 2 champions looked a little strange. It was no wonder that they were like this. A freshman almost killed an official student in the assessment. Who could treat him normally? Jidong found an official student he had met before and asked about it. He received good news that Kar and Bisso had successfully passed the test with their combination skill. They had already become junior students and were going to register and handle the admission procedures. He had just arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy and was unfamiliar with the place and people. Now that his 2 brothers had successfully enrolled, Jidong had nothing to worry about. He simply returned to the dormitory he had just been assigned to. Finally, things had settled down. He couldn't wait to see the faith in his heart. Today, he could finally continue cultivating there. Returning to his room in the Inyang school, Jidong took out some alcohol from his storage bracelet and placed it on the table. There was no bar like in the Fire Academy, so the conditions here were much worse. However, it didn't affect his mixing skills. Even Jidong couldn't understand why. Although they could see each other every day, he still missed her so much. In this state of longing, he mixed a glass of fine alcohol. Flaming bar. The red lotus unfurled, wrapped around his body, and disappeared quietly. On the rocky platform of the Earth's core lake, when Jidong appeared out of thin air, he saw her perfect form at first glance. A strong sense of happiness rose involuntarily. He was already satisfied as long as he could see her every time he came here. If he had been stunned when he first saw the flaming bar and was still able to control his heart, then after 4 years, his heart had long since fallen in love with her. In his heart there was nothing more important than the flaming bar, so he allowed himself to indulge in it. She was his faith, an unchanging faith. The flaming bar took the fine alcohol from Jidong's hand and smiled. Jidong, that 3-elemental combination skill today was pretty good. Jidong said, "It was just a coincidence. I didn't think it would be like this. Flaming bar, my dual fire ultimate has been discovered." The flaming bar took a sip of the cocktail in his hand and savored the taste and feeling. "Don't worry, people will find out about your ability sooner or later. Plus, that Zhu Er is an obsessed person, and he swore that he wouldn't tell anyone. This person is worth befriending. Magic-powered weapons are beneficial to magicians of any level. How about this? You can promise him that when your cultivation reaches 3 crowns, as long as you stay in the academy for a day, you will use your dual fire ultimate to help him for 6 hours a week. The condition is that when you need it, he will forge a full set of magic weapons for you, including mount equipment. You will provide the materials yourself. Ji-dong nodded and said, "All right, I'll listen to you." The flaming bar was slightly taken aback, because Ji-dong's reply was too quick. There was no hesitation at all. He hurriedly took another sip of alcohol to cover up his loss of composure. He nodded and said, "Go ahead and cultivate. From now on, you will have to cultivate here for at least 10 hours a day, of which at least 4 hours will be used to cultivate demonic skills. You should have also felt that in battle, although magic power is the foundation, demonic skills are the deciding factor. After obtaining the 2 sovereign skills, the foundation for the next level is 2 crowns of magic power and the number of times the demonic skills can be used. I hope that you will first master the demonic skills. Cultivating demonic skills is also a way to increase your magic power, and it will also allow you to use it better. The process of exhausting and recovering your magic power every time is the best improvement." Alright. After agreeing, Ji-dong immediately began to cultivate. The flaming bar did not stay here for long. As if thinking about something, he floated up and disappeared into the earth core lake in the blink of an eye. The dark moon dance was followed by the devourer of the scorching sun, followed by the dark moon claw and the scorching sun collapse. Gold and black, under the eruption of the 2 extreme flames, Ji-dong was surprised to find that he still had some remaining magic power. He circled his hands on both sides of his body, and the remaining magic power was instantly mobilized. The strong Bing Wu primordial yang sacred fire and Ding Si spiritual fire of the netherworld gathered in front of his chest, and a mixed gold and black fireball burst out. He had completed the final blow of all his magic power. The extreme dual flames version of the Bing Ding fireball flew out with a whistling sound. In the blink of an eye, it flew for 50 meters before smashing into the earth core lake, making a loud bang and rolling up a heat wave. Ji-dong was delighted. He knew that the reason he could complete 5 magic skills in one go was not because his magic power had increased again, but because he had avoided wasting magic power as much as possible during the process of casting the magic skills. That was why he had some remaining magic power to complete the release of the Bing Ding fireball. Of course, the power of this Bing Ding fireball was only 1/3 of his peak, but it was definitely a good start. After exhausting his own magic power, Ji-dong immediately sat cross-legged. The yin-yang vortex around the origin of yin-yang crown rotated, quickly absorbing the pure fire elements in the air to replenish himself. Ji-dong found that with the improvement of his magic power, the speed of absorbing the magic elements in the air had also increased during the process of cultivation. When he first came here, he could not even stand the heat here. But now, he no longer needed any protection from the flaming bar to cultivate here. There was no doubt that the speed of cultivation here was much faster than in the outside world. Before the age of 16, Ji-dong believed that with his current cultivation speed, he would have the chance to aim for the double crown within half a year. Continuously releasing demonic skills, cultivating demonic energy, and experiencing the feeling of using the demonic skills was undoubtedly a boring process. However, whenever he felt irritated, he would think of the raging flames in his heart, and all the negative emotions would vanish without a trace. He would become full of confidence again. Ji-dong did not know if this was the power of love, but he was sure that the flaming bar was the biggest motivation for his cultivation. During the process of cultivation, he could also feel that every time he repeated the process, his magic power would increase a little. Not to mention him, who had the yin-yang balance physique, even the most talented demon master would not have such a feeling. From level 1 to level 10, because there was no origin of yin-yang crown, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. It was the first hurdle for a demon master, but the process from level 10 to level 20 was much easier. The origin of Yin-Yang Crown and the Yin-Yang Vortex absorbed the magic power from the outside world at an astonishing speed. In just one night of cultivation, Ji Dong had already used the full set of magic skills more than 15 times. At this rate, he would be able to continue learning the magic skills in about 2 months. "Alright, Ji Dong, stop, you should leave." The gentle voice of the flaming bar rang out, waking up Ji Dong, who had just recovered his magic power and was about to cast the magic skills again. Flaming bar. Ji Dong took the empty glass from the flaming bar, but to his surprise, the flaming bar's slender fingers suddenly turned and grabbed his hand. Before Ji Dong could feel the warmth of the flaming bar's fingers, he felt a sharp pain from his middle finger. "Don't move," the flaming bar said plainly. Chapter 49. Ji Dong vaguely felt as if something had pierced his middle finger. As the saying goes, the 10 fingers are linked to the heart. The intense pain made him frown slightly. The flaming bar held on to Ji Dong's hand for a while before slowly releasing it. Before that, she purposely pinched Ji Dong's middle finger that was previously in pain. Ji Dong looked at his finger. There was nothing wrong with it, nor was there a scar. The flaming bar smiled and said, "Go back. You'll understand in the future." Alright. Ji Dong would never ask what the flaming bar was unwilling to say. This was a tacit understanding and absolute trust. "Goodbye, flaming bar." The red lotus rolled up and Ji Dong disappeared. Looking at the place where he disappeared, the flaming bar revealed a knowing smile in her eyes. The rich mana undulation quietly spread out. The flaming bar raised her hand and flicked. A red lotus fire floated out. The red lotus enlarged in the air and fell into the earth core lake. After a while, the magma in the center of the earth core lake surged. Under the support of the red lotus fire that had expanded to a diameter of 5 meters, a huge egg rose up. The outside of the eggshell was wrapped in gold and black light. The light inside was also flickering. The flaming bar flicked her finger again. A red bead of blood with the diameter of a gold coin floated out. It turned into threads of red light in the air and merged into the eggshell from all directions. Every thread of blood was protected by a layer of red light. They easily penetrated the gold and black light on the outside of the eggshell. After that, the huge red lotus brought the huge egg back into the magma lake. The flaming bar muttered to herself, "With blood as the bridge, there's no need for any contract anymore." When Ji Dong returned to his room, it was already the morning of the next day. He had cultivated in the earth core lake for more than 16 hours this time. The mana in his body had clearly improved. He thought back to what he had gained that night and walked out of the room with satisfaction. He came to the field and started jogging. The air at dawn was especially fresh, and the chi and blood in his body gradually calmed down from the state of cultivation. As he was running, Ji Dong suddenly felt something and turned his head to look behind him. He saw a figure quickly catching up to him and walking side by side with him. "I didn't expect you to be my junior. I heard you've entered the Yin-Yang Hall." The person smiled and said to Hyoheim. This person wore a yellow school uniform and was more than half a head taller than Ji Dong. He was handsome, and there was a hint of arrogance between his brows. He was precisely the person who had suppressed Ji Dong to the point of not being able to raise his head at the bartender guild. He was also the one who possessed the special number 10 token in Yin-Yang School, Ji Yeshang. Ji Dong glanced at him and said calmly, "I'm surprised to see you here too." Ji Yi didn't seem to notice Ji Dong's indifference at all. He said, "I went to find you yesterday, but I didn't knock on your door. You must be cultivating. I live very close to you, so I knew as soon as you came out. This isn't a coincidence." "Why are you looking for me? Revenge?" Ji Dong glanced at him. Ji Yi hurriedly shook his head and said, "How could that be? Don't think that the Heavenly STEM Academy's management is lax. In fact, the rules here are much stricter than those of any other academy. Once you break them, there's no mercy to speak of. The academy doesn't oppose challenges, but it does oppose private fights, especially between us students of the Inyang Hall. I came to find you because of the shoots, the 9 suns that you made that day. You don't know, but after you left that day, our Central Plains City branch was turned upside down. Especially after we tasted the 9 cups of fallen suns. Vice President Chen Xiao wrote a letter and sent it to the headquarters of the North Water Empire. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that you're a top-notch bartender that I can't imagine. I've never seen what Lord Du Sikong's bartending is like, but I don't think there's anything wrong with describing you as a god of wine. Ji Dong's expression was still indifferent as he said, "You came to find me just to tell me this?" Ji Yi chuckled and said, "Of course not. I came to find you on behalf of the guild. With your ability, if you're willing to join us, you'll at least be our vice president. With your ability, it's no problem for you to make a name for yourself in the world of bartending. Brother, I was in the wrong before, and I apologize. As long as you're willing to join the branch, I'll even kowtow and apologize to you." Ji Dong stopped and looked Ji Yi in the eye. "First of all, there's no us between us. Secondly, you're not my brother, and I won't join your Central Plains City branch. It's not impossible for me to join the Bartenders Guild, but there's only one condition: someone can beat me in bartending. Otherwise, don't bother me anymore." After saying this, he turned and sped up again. "Ji Dong, wait." Ji Yi didn't give up and hurriedly caught up. "Didn't you come to the Heavenly STEM Academy to learn? How about a sure kill technique? As long as you agree, I'll give you the cultivation method of the sure kill technique right now. I heard that you're a yin and yang dual fire element. The Bing fire element or the Fuhua series sure kill technique is up to you." Ji Dong glared at him and said, "No need. Even the sure kill technique won't do?" Ji Yi froze for a moment and said, "Ji Dong, you have to know that there are many benefits to joining the Bartenders Guild. You don't need to do anything at all, and you'll be paid handsomely every month. How about this? I'll make the decision on behalf of the branch president. 2 sure kill techniques, one for the Bing fire element and one for the Fuhua series. As long as your cultivation reaches 3 crowns, you'll have the possibility to cultivate them. If you need any help in the academy in the future, I'll do my best to help you." This time, Ji Dong simply ignored him and continued running as if he hadn't heard him. Ji Ye's expression finally changed. "Ji Dong, don't go too far. Even if you're arrogant, you need to know your limits." Ji Dong stopped for the second time and said, "My words won't change. If you want me to join the Bartenders Guild, sure. Let Du Sikong defeat me, and I'll join unconditionally. Otherwise, don't bother me. Also, in the Heavenly STEM Academy, I don't need your help. Cultivation is based on one's own ability." "You." Ji Yi was an extremely proud person, but the Ji Dong in front of him was even more arrogant. His heart burned with anger. "Ji Dong, you'll regret this. I can't do anything to you in the academy if you offend me, but I have to remind you that the leader of the Inyang school, the senior with the special token, Fury, is also the president of the Central Plains City branch. You came to provoke him and made the guild lose face. Big Brother Fury won't let you off. Even in the academy, Big Brother Fury, who is known as the Thunder Emperor, has privileges that other students don't." "So what?" Ji Dong replied coldly. He stopped running and turned to walk back to the Earth Element building. "You can follow me on the field. I'll go back to my room, right?" Ji Yi was stunned when he heard Ji Dong's words. In his heart, the Thunder Emperor Fury was a supreme existence among the students of the Heavenly STEM Academy. Even the second and third-ranked students of the Inyang school wouldn't dare to speak like this. The Thunder Emperor's temper was something that even the mentors feared. He was also the only person who dared to go against the board of directors of the academy. But this new student in front of him, who was less than 15 years old and had just entered the academy, actually dared to ignore the Thunder Emperor's authority. Looking at Ji Dong's back, Ji Yi couldn't help but say, "The ignorant are indeed fearless. Ji Dong, looks like I'll have to pray for you." Using the token, Ji Dong returned to the Inyang school. He took out the map that Yi Xian had given him and looked at it. He wasn't familiar with the paths in the Inyang school yet, so he had to carry the map with him. The canteen was on the east side of the first floor of the Inyang school. If he went to have some breakfast, it would be time to assemble in the morning. When Ji Dong arrived at the cafeteria, he was shocked as soon as he entered the door. It was not because of anything else, but because there were many more people than he had imagined. Yi Xian had said the previous day that including him and Ling Yu, there were no more than 50 students in the Inyang school. However, when he walked into the 500-square-meter canteen, there were at least 100 people as far as the eye could see. They were all dressed differently, and most of them were in their 20s or 30s. There were also some in their 50s or 60s, and some even older. On the left side of the canteen, there was a row of long tables connected together. There were at least 30 types of food on them, and this was breakfast. There was even a 50-square-meter bar in the innermost area. There were a few people sitting there, but it was hard to tell whether they were drinking or not. Stone tables were placed in the center of the canteen. Not to mention 50 people, even 500 people could be accommodated here. "Please show me your token." A weak voice was heard. Ji Dong turned his head and saw a middle-aged woman in her 40s looking at him. He took out his token and handed it to her. The woman glanced at it and pointed at the food. She said, "Eat as much as you like. Don't waste anything." "Thank you." Ji Dong's sixth senses were stronger than ordinary people's, and he was good at observing. Before he could take a closer look at the people in the canteen, 2 voices had already called his name. "Ji Dong. Brother Ji Dong." Ling Yu skipped over with a freshly wrapped egg in her left hand. The other person made Ji Dong a little speechless. It was Zhu Lauer, whose hair was messy and clothes were more torn than a beggar's. "Brother Ji Dong, this is for you." Ling Yu handed over the egg in her hand. Looking at her big clear eyes, Ji Dong took the egg and patted her head. He said, "Thank you." Zhu Lauer walked over and said with a smile, "Brother, hurry up and eat. We'll be gathering soon. Your teacher is very good. You'll definitely have a bright future if you follow him." Zhu Lauer's voice was quite loud. When he called out "brother," it was so quiet in the canteen that you could hear a pin drop. A few exaggerated people even dropped the food in their hands and looked over with their mouths wide open. Zhu Lauer gave Hyoheim a look and returned to his previous position to eat breakfast. Obviously, he called out "brother" on purpose. Ji Dong could not help but have a good impression of this crazy old man. He was building up his reputation. More importantly, even the flaming bar said that he was trustworthy. Ji Dong let down his guard and randomly chose some food. Ling Yu followed beside Ji Dong and whispered, "Brother Ji Dong, why did that weird old man call you brother?" Ji Dong smiled and said, "We're brothers of the opposite sex. We're friends despite the difference in age." Ling Yu was stunned and said, "That's possible? Brother Ji Dong, I'm going to eat first. Sister Yi Xian is calling me." Ji Dong nodded and watched as Ling Yu skipped to a table in the inner area. Yi Xian and 2 other young girls in purple were sitting there. Yi Xian naturally saw Ji Dong as well. A strange look flashed in her eyes and she nodded to him. Ji Dong returned the greeting and randomly chose some food. He sat at an empty table in the corner and started eating. He could feel that almost everyone in the canteen was staring at him, but no one was talking about him. The food in the Heavenly STEM Academy was definitely much better than the food in the Fire Academy. After almost 16 hours of high-intensity cultivation, Ji Dong was already a little tired. After eating breakfast, his spirit recovered a little. He thought to himself that he had to improve his cultivation method. If he trained too hard, he wouldn't be able to recover his energy to study. From now on, he couldn't practice skills in the last 2 hours of cultivation at the Earth Core Lake. He had to rest as much as possible while recovering his mana. Meditation was a good way to rest. The hall on the first floor was located in the middle of the Enyang school. It was a place that could be reached after getting off the elevator. Only here could one truly feel the grandeur of the underground structure of the Enyang school. The hall on the first floor was at least 10 meters tall. It could be said that it was a small field that was 100 meters long. The hall was extremely spacious, and only the surrounding walls were carved with totems of the 10 elements. When Jidong arrived, some people had already gathered in twos and threes. However, very few people were talking. Most of them were in groups of 2. Jidong discovered that the 2 people in each group were one older and one younger. It seemed that this was indeed a one-on-one education. There were as many teachers as there were students. "You are Jidong?" At this time, a deep voice like muffled thunder came from behind Jidong. The voice came so suddenly that Jidong wasn't prepared at all. He was startled and immediately turned around. He immediately saw an old man with red eyebrows and white hair. His white hair was neatly combed behind his head, and his black eyes were shining. There were no wrinkles on his simple face, so he couldn't tell his age. What surprised Jidong was that he couldn't feel a trace of mana from this old man. He couldn't even feel a trace of a human's aura. This was also why his sensitive senses hadn't detected anything before. For some reason, when he looked at him, Jidong felt that he was a little familiar. "You are?" Jidong asked doubtfully. "From now on, I will be your exclusive teacher at the Heavenly STEM Academy. I am Zhurong." Chapter 50. Zhurong. What a domineering name. Jidong still clearly remembered that in the legends of his previous life, the fire god's name was Zhurong. Zhurong was extremely tall, at least 2 heads taller than the 14-year-old Jidong. He had broad shoulders, and his eyebrows were filled with a manic aura. His face was dignified without being angry, and his white hair showed that he wasn't young at all. Although he didn't release any aura in front of him, Jidong still felt that he couldn't breathe. "Hello, Teacher Zhurong." Jidong bowed. Zhurong nodded and said, "There is only one requirement for you to learn from me. You must not be afraid of hardship, understand? Come, let me see your dual fire magic." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and pressed it on Jidong's chest, just like Zhurong did yesterday. Jidong couldn't help but smile bitterly. Could it be that he couldn't keep the secret of his dual fire secret? Zhurong's palm was very large. When he pressed it on his chest, Jidong only felt a wave of warmth coming from his palm. "Now?" Jidong asked in confusion. Zhurong nodded and said, "Yes, now. I'm not used to people questioning my words. You must remember this." His eyes flashed, and the magic in his body was instantly activated. This time, Jidong learned from his previous experience. He didn't use the yin-yang lock to hide his yin-yang swirl. Instead, he quietly hid the properties of the dual fire. He made the yin-yang swirl in his chest turn red and blue. Red and blue flames rose from his hands at the same time, and the unique black and white yin-yang crown quietly condensed. Zhurong's right hand pressed tightly against Jidong's chest. His eyes instantly brightened, and he shouted, "Good, so that's how it is." Zhurong's voice was so loud that the entire hall shook. Jidong withdrew his yin and ding flames, and at the same time, he attracted everyone's attention. However, no one dared to look at this old man. "All right, come with me." While speaking, Zhurong took back his right hand, turned around and walked out of the hall. Jidong was stunned for a moment, but he still followed. The gathering in the hall was over. The Heavenly STEM Academy was really a strange place. Zhurong had a robust figure, so his strides were naturally long as well. The two of them walked out of the hall in the blink of an eye. When they walked out, Shui Ruhan turned to Long Tian and said, "Laowu, I heard that Sire Shui and Sire Zhu quarreled yesterday." Long Tian chuckled and said, "Didn't you see that Elder Zhu has come personally?" Jidong was taken away by him. "I wonder what he's going to do?" Shui Ruhan lowered her voice and said, "It can't be that Elder Zhu intends to teach him personally, right? Ever since Boss Fury, Elder Zhu hasn't taught any disciples. Long Tian bitterly smiled. Nothing is impossible. Have you heard of the yin and yang dual fire element? I plan to graduate in another 2 years, and we've pretty much learned everything in the academy. Once we're in the top 10, we won't have any teachers to guide us anymore, and we'll have to cultivate on our own. I don't want to be beaten down in the near future, so it's not a bad idea to graduate with the 5th position in the Yin-Yang Hall. Shui Ruhan smiled. Lao Wu, you don't have to be so exaggerated. That brat's only at the 14th rank, and it's still too early for him to catch up to us. Long Tian glared at Shui Ruhan. Don't you know what it means to prepare for a rainy day? Boss Fury has been gone for quite a few days, and I heard that he went to the North Water Empire. I wonder what he will do when he finds out that he has a junior brother. Remember, don't provoke that brat Ji Dong in the future. I just heard that Zhu Rong called him brother in the canteen. The seniority is a little messy. Zhu Rong led Ji Dong into the Yin-Yang Hall. As they walked, he asked Hyoheim, "Has Yang Bingtian taught you before?" Ji Dong shook his head. He could tell that this new teacher of his was a very strong person, and even if he had questions in his heart, he didn't ask them. Zhu Rong nodded. It's good that he hasn't, lest he misleads the students. After hearing Zhu Rong's words, Ji Dong couldn't help it. In his heart, Yang Bingtian's help was irreplaceable. Without Yang Bingtian, he wouldn't have known about the flaming bar, and he wouldn't be where he was today. President Yang is a very good teacher, please don't insult him. Insult? Zhu Rong laughed. He's not worthy of being insulted by me. Ji Dong stopped walking, stared at Zhu Rong coldly and said, I don't need you to be my teacher anymore. After saying this, he turned around and walked away. In a sense, Yang Bingtian could be counted as his savior. Although he had been mixing drinks for Yang Bingtian for 4 years, which could be counted as returning the favor, he would never allow anyone to insult Yang Bingtian. Of course, he understood that he couldn't rival Zhu Rong. Attacking Zhu Rong would only bring humiliation to himself. Therefore, the only thing he could do was to reject Zhu Rong. Ji Dong had only taken 2 steps when suddenly, a layer of red light screen suddenly rose from the path in front of him, blocking his way. Zhu Rong's voice came from behind him. Do you think I won't do it just because you said so? If you want to gain other people's approval and respect, you have to rely on your own power. The defensive power of this layer of red light screen is equal to that of a master-level fire devil who has just broken through 3 crowns. As long as you can break it, I will take back what I said just now, and give you an explanation. Ji Dong turned around and looked at Zhu Rong. What he saw was Zhu Rong's bland eyes. Instantly, a sense of pride rose from his chest, and at this moment, the light in his eyes seemed to have been ignited completely. The humiliation of being underestimated and being suppressed by Zhu Rong's power had even changed the power of his entire body. He clenched his fists, and the black and white yin-yang crown appeared above his head along with the rising flames. At this moment, Ji Dong felt like he once again sensed the majesty of the 2 emperors. Just like when he was facing the ice dragon, he puffed out his chest with a strong and inviolable will. Under the guidance of his will, the yin and yang swirl began spinning at an unprecedented speed. Back then, when he was facing the ice dragon, the power gap between him and the ice dragon was way too huge. Although Ji Dong had also reached the same level of power as the ice dragon, he couldn't launch even a single attack. At this moment, under the pressure of Zhu Rong's power, which seemed to be no weaker than that of the ice dragon, the pride in his heart once again merged with the will of the 2 emperors. Looking at Ji Dong, a trace of surprise and admiration flashed across Zhu Rong's eyes. Zhu Rong silently nodded. The most important thing a fire magician needed was an invincible will. Taking a step forward with his right foot, Ji Dong's power instantly burst out. The magic power inside his body was instantly transformed into the fire force, and even the yin-yang crown on his head had turned into a black yin-yang crown. A raging black flame burst out along with Ji Dong's left hand. In the past, when he launched the Dark Moon Claw, the black flame would only burst out when he touched the enemy's body. But this time, although he was only using the ordinary fire force, an inch-long sharp blue light burst out from the fingertips of his left hand, and his entire hand had turned blue as well. With a hissing sound, an ear-piercing explosion sounded on the fire third light curtain. A long and slanted blue flame suddenly remained on it, making a violent friction sound with the fire third elements on the light curtain. The next moment when the Dark Moon Claw was launched, the scorching Sun Devourer had already erupted. His right fist, which was clenched so tightly that even his bones were cracking, also emitted a layer of red light, and heavily smashed on the mark left by the Dark Moon Claw. With the support of his proud willpower, Ji Dong's spirit was raised to a whole new level. His heart was completely immersed in a frenzied state of release. His connection of magic skills was even faster than last night's practice, and he was more adept at using his mana. Boom, followed by a thunderous boom, the power of the combination skill of Bing and Ding suddenly erupted, and a strong counterforce was generated. Just when Zhu Rong thought that Ji Dong's attack had been completed, his body suddenly flashed across the air, as if he had taken another step forward. Ji Dong forcibly went through the counterforce generated by the explosion of the combination skill and thrust his claw out again. The surging explosive power rose to a new height again, and that fiery light screen instantly began shaking intensely. However, all this was not over yet. The illusory steps appeared again, and Ji Dong's whole body once again abruptly accelerated. He lowered his right shoulder, and under the driving force of the Dark Moon Dance, he crashed into the light curtain. It was the scorching sun collapse. 2 Dark Moon Claws, 2 Dark Moon Dances, 1 Scorching Sun Devour, and 1 Scorching Sun Burst, completing a cycle of 3 explosive combo skills. The twin flames of Bing and Ding completed the explosive power of the combo skill 3 times. When Ji Dong's last Scorching Sun Burst hit the Bing flames of Bing's light barrier, he didn't use Dark Moon Dance to deflect the impact. His entire body was sent flying by the recoil, and the light barrier also cracked with a series of cracking sounds. In the air, Ji Dong didn't care about his almost out-of-control body. His hands drew beautiful arcs on both sides of his body, and 2 balls of light, 1 red and 1 blue, were suddenly thrown out, merged into one in the air, and blasted out. Perish! The final roar merged with Ji Dong's crazy cry. In the loud bang, the fire third light curtain shattered, turning into red light and dissipating in the tunnel, and Ji Dong's body also fell heavily to the ground at this moment, making a muffled bang, and his chest rose and fell violently. Although using the ordinary fire third and Ding consumed a lot less energy, after using the equivalent of 7 magic skills in a row, especially the last fireball with all his strength, it also drained most of Ji Dong's magic power. But even so, at this moment, Ji Dong's body was filled with an unprecedented feeling of joy. The sound of the fire third light curtain shattering made his will completely merge with the 2 kings' arrogance. A strong domineering aura kept bursting out from his body, and all the energy inside his body seemed to have become much more transparent, especially the perception of his brain, which had become extremely clear. Looking at this scene, Zhu Rong's eyelids twitched. In his mind there was only one voice. A single person's combination skill with 2 natures, an explosive attack that looked like a flaming meteor. Was this done by a level 14, a 14-year-old kid? Even if there were 2 triple crown-level magicians cooperating with each other, it would still be impossible for them to complete this 4-fold attack within a blink of an eye. Although the fire third light curtain released by Zhu Rong was only as strong as a triple crown-level magician, after all, he was a powerful magician of the fire third. The toughness of this fire third light curtain was much stronger than that of a triple crown-level magician. Zhu Rong was sure that if a triple crown-level magician of the Fire Third had stood there and defended with a single magic skill, it wouldn't be as simple as his defense being broken. It seemed that this time, Zhu Rong had indeed picked up a treasure. In the fight yesterday, even if the triple magic combination didn't appear coincidentally, that severely injured official student might not have been able to block this kid's explosive attack. What Zhu Rong was most satisfied with was that Ji Dong's unparalleled will, which was facing all kinds of difficulties head-on. Obviously, just now Ji Dong had performed beyond his normal level. Being able to perform like this under the pressure brought by Zhu Rong's magic skill, it was evident. This thought flashed across Zhu Rong's mind like a bolt of lightning, but he still showed a cold expression on his face. He slightly stomped his right foot on the ground, after which Ji Dong felt a great power coming from his back. His entire body instantly bounced up from the ground and stood back on the ground. When facing an enemy, do you just lie on the ground after launching an attack? Are you sure that you only have one enemy? Are you sure that you have defeated him completely? Zhu Rong's cold voice made Ji Dong's excitement disappear. Only by raising his hand, this old man in front of him had already made him feel an unprecedented power. I just hope that my enemy will keep his words. Ji Dong responded blandly as well. Zhu Rong snorted scornfully and said, I take back what I said just now. As for the explanation, it's even simpler. Yang Bingtian is my registered disciple. After saying this, Zhu Rong turned around and continued walking deeper into the Yinyang school. Ji Dong's face froze. President Yang was his disciple, and a registered disciple at that. In terms of seniority, this old man named Zhu Rong, shouldn't he be calling him Shifu? The anger that Ji Dong had felt before had completely disappeared. As a teacher, no matter what he said about his disciple, it would never be too much. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Ji Dong hurriedly caught up with Zhu Rong. Zhu Rong didn't say anything. He held his hands behind his back, walked straight to the third floor of the Yinyang school, and led Ji Dong into a room. Once he walked into the room, Ji Dong was stunned, because he suddenly saw that Headmaster Yang Bingtian, whom he had been angry about, was in the room. Seeing Zhu Rong and Ji Dong, Yang Bingtian hurriedly took a few steps forward, bent his waist 90 degrees, and very respectfully saluted Zhu Rong. Teacher. Zhu Rong waved his hand and said, All right, you know that I don't like these customs. President Yang, why are you here? Ji Dong asked in surprise. Yang Bingtian chuckled and said, I can't bear to part with you. Now, I am an ordinary teacher in the Heavenly STEM Academy. Ji Dong was speechless. He thought to himself, Is it because you can't bear to part with me, or because you can't bear to part with the wine I mixed? However, no matter what, seeing Yang Bingtian here and seeing his familiar smile, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Chapter 51. Bam, bam, bam. Before Ji Dong and Yang Bingtian could talk about the old days, someone knocked on the door. Zhu Rong's face darkened, but at this moment, the door opened. Zhu Rong's second son walked in with his messy red hair. As soon as he entered, he said to Zhu Rong absent-mindedly, I knew you'd bring him here. Zhu Rong said with a cold face, I'm teaching my disciple. What are you doing here? Second brother Zhu chuckled. I'm just greeting you. Treat my brother Ji Dong a little better. We've already become sworn brothers, friends despite the difference in age. Boss, you have to give me face this time. Zhu Rong was stunned, and Yang Bingtian was even more dumbfounded. Ji Dong was also puzzled. Second brother Zhu was familiar with Zhu Rong? Second brother Zhu walked to Ji Dong's side and patted his shoulder. Brother, do you know why I'm called second brother Zhu? Actually, my name is Zhu Yan. Zhu Rong is my elder brother. He's the eldest Zhu, so I'm naturally the second Zhu. Not to mention anything else, my elder brother's attainments in Third Fire can be counted on one hand in the entire continent. You should learn well from him. I really didn't expect him to be willing to personally teach you. Ji Dong only felt dizzy. He looked at second brother Zhu, then at Zhu Rong and the dumbfounded Yang Bingtian, and couldn't help but be speechless. This seniority was really too messed up. Judging from his relationship with second brother Zhu was his sworn brother, so his elder brother should naturally be Ji Dong's elder brother. Yang Bingtian was Zhu Rong's in-name disciple, so he was actually one generation lower than Ji Dong. However, from Zhu Rong's perspective, if he wanted to be his teacher, he would be the same generation as Yang Bingtian and one generation lower than second brother Zhu. However, according to Yang Bingtian, who was the first person he met, he should be 2 generations younger than Zhu Rong and Zhu Yan. In other words, when he looked at the 3 people in front of him from different angles, their seniority was actually different. This was really a mess. Zhu Rong knitted his eyebrows and said to Zhu Rong, "Get out of here, don't mess around in my place. I don't care if he's your brother or not, from now on, he's my disciple. Don't mess with him if you don't have anything to do with him. I'm telling you, he has the power of fire element and now is the most important time for his cultivation. If you dare to seduce him to learn magic weapon forging from you, don't blame me for kicking you out of the school." In front of the others, Zhu Rong acted like a madman, but in front of Zhu Rong, he was extremely honest. He chuckled and said, "Boss, don't worry. Even if you beg me to teach him how to forge magic weapons, I won't do it. I'm leaving. Brother, you have to work hard on your cultivation." After that, Zhu Laoer quickly slipped out. Zhu Rong seemed to be thinking for a while, then said to Yang Bingtian, "Bingtian, you tell this kid about the rules of the Heavenly STEM Academy, I'm going out for a while." "Yes." Yang Bingtian responded politely. Zhu Rong followed behind Zhu Rong and left the room. Only Ji Dong and Yang Bingtian were left in the room. Yang Bingtian let out a sigh of relief. Facing the pressure brought by Zhu Rong, he was even less calm than Ji Dong. After all, Ji Dong didn't know how powerful Zhu Rong was. But to Yang Bingtian, he could never forget Zhu Rong's power for even a second. "Ji Dong, I didn't think that you would be treated well by our teacher. From now on, don't call me President Yang, just call me brother." Ji Dong paused for a second and said, "How can I do that?" Yang Bingtian interrupted. "Although our teacher doesn't really care about the relationship between you and Zhu Rong, he has always been very strict with his disciples. If you don't agree, you will be hurting me. I am only a registered disciple, you calling me brother is because of you." Ji Dong helplessly nodded. As a man who had lived 2 lives, he could clearly see that the old man named Zhu Rong had a supreme position in Yang Bingtian's heart. Why couldn't he help him? Yang Bingtian said, "Ji Dong, now that you are officially admitted by the Heavenly STEM Academy and have joined the Yin-Yang School, there are many things I can tell you. Do you know why the 5 empires joined hands and founded the Heavenly STEM Academy, and why the 5 empires rarely fought against each other?" Ji Dong looked at Yang Bingtian in surprise. These were all the questions in his heart, and he quickly said, "Please teach me, brother." Yang Bingtian said, "The reason for this situation is that the 5 empires have a common enemy." "Common enemy?" Ji Dong's eyes revealed a trace of thinking. "That's right, it's a common enemy. Actually, in our world, there's more than just the 5 elements continent. Apart from that, there's another continent. Therefore, the real name of our 5 elements continent should be the Radiant 5 Elements continent. Do you still remember the question you asked before? Why is it that after we release our magic power and the Yin-Yang crown, there will be a layer of gold around the magic power? That is the symbol of light. No matter which of the 10 magicians we are, we all have the same situation, the symbol of light." Ji Dong said in surprise, "So, if there is radiance, there will be darkness? Then shouldn't the other continent be called Darkness 5 Elements Continent?" Yang Bingtian nodded with a solemn expression and said, "You are right. Other than our Radiant 5 Elements Continent, there is another slightly smaller continent not far from us, separated by the sea. It is called Darkness 5 Elements Continent. There are also 5 empires that represent the 5 elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. It's just that their magic is inclined towards darkness. Jidong said, light and darkness are completely opposite. In that case, the darkness 5 elements continent is the mortal enemy of the radiant 5 elements continent? But why haven't I heard anyone mention this when I was in Lifire City? Yang Bingtian said, this is a secret of the continent. The 5 empires, led by the Central Earth Empire, have all done their best to block this news, in order to prevent the public from panicking. It's better for ordinary people not to know about this secret. As long as the radiant 5 elements continent is not invaded, it has nothing to do with them. And this situation has been maintained for thousands of years. Jidong said doubtfully, I still don't quite understand. Since the 2 continents are of opposite attributes and view each other with hatred, won't they start a war? Once a war breaks out, will the people of the empires not know about it? Yang Bingtian said, this is what I want to tell you. It's true that the opposite attributes of the 2 continents have caused them to view each other as enemies, and the hatred is as deep as the sea. The war has never stopped in the past thousands of years. However, this is only a war between the minority. To put it bluntly, this is a war that belongs to us, the magicians, and has nothing to do with the ordinary people. Looking at the puzzled look on Jidong's face, Yang Bingtian continued, between the radiant 5 elements continent and the dark 5 elements continent, there is a vast oceanic trench with endless wind and waves. In the oceanic trench, there are many unknown but extremely powerful supreme magical beasts. Let alone ships, even birds can't cross it. Even the most powerful magicians can't cross it by sea. This kind of geographical condition makes it impossible for the 2 continents to cross the sea and start a real large-scale war. Naturally, the ordinary people won't be affected. However, the 2 continents are not completely separated. Between the 2 continents, there is an island that is about half the size of our southern Fire Empire. The center of the island is wide, and the 2 ends are narrow and long, connecting the 2 continents. The narrow and long terrain forms 2 geographical structures like a passageway. This island has become the common point between the 2 continents, and is named the Holy Evil Island. The passageway that extends from the 2 continents to the Holy Evil Island is called the Holy Evil Passageway. Jidong said, so, if we want to land on the other continent, we have to go through the Holy Evil Passageway and go through the Holy Evil Island? Which continent does this island belong to? Yang Bingtian smiled bitterly. It doesn't belong to any continent. The war has been going on for thousands of years because of this Holy Evil Island. Because the passageway is narrow, it is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Whether we have the upper hand or the other side has the upper hand, we have never been able to break through the defense at the end of the passageway. The Holy Evil Island itself is an extremely dangerous place. It has a harsh environment, all kinds of super magical beasts, as well as magical beasts from the sea. Even powerful magicians have a hard time surviving there. Therefore, for thousands of years, the 2 continents have been in a stalemate. This kind of war can't be decided by the number of warriors. Therefore, after the first 100 years of war, both sides left their most elite warriors at the exit of the passageway to form a defensive line, which is our yin and yang magician. The excessive consumption of elite magicians on both sides caused a great deal of damage. Later on, the most powerful magicians from both sides negotiated and signed an agreement. The Holy Evil Passage will open once every 5 years. Both sides can send no more than 300 magicians under the age of 50 to enter the Holy Evil Island and start the Holy Evil Hunt. They will kill as many magical beasts as possible to improve the living conditions of the Holy Evil Island. The day when the magical beasts on the Holy Evil Island are cleared will be the day of the final battle. Of course, the Holy Evil Hunt is not as simple as it looks on the surface. Not only do they have to kill magical beasts, They also have to be on guard against the magicians from the Dark Five Elements continent. After each holy evil hunt, less than 1/3 of the magicians can come back from the holy evil battlefield. At this point, Ji Dong finally understood and said, "Yang Academy. Senior brother, does this mean that the existence of the Heavenly Academy is to provide young magicians for the holy evil passage that opens once every 5 years?" Yang Bingtian nodded, at the same time his eyes lit up and said, "The Heavenly Academy was created by the 5 great empires. It has the most powerful teachers and resources to train the most outstanding young elites in the continent, especially the disciples of the Yin-Yang Academy. Every time the holy evil battlefield opens, the Yin-Yang Academy has a very important position. Although there are only a few dozen of you, you are called the Heavenly Academy. The enemies of the Dark Five Elements continent tremble in fear at the mention of your name. For many years, almost every holy evil hunt has been won by our side." Ji Dong sighed and said, "There really is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. No wonder the treatment of the Heavenly Academy is so generous. It turns out that there is such a secret behind it. Does this mean that as long as you study here, you will have to go to the holy evil battlefield to die?" Yang Bingtian could naturally hear the dissatisfaction in Ji Dong's words, so he solemnly said, "Ji Dong, you are wrong. The existence of the Heavenly Academy is indeed for the holy evil hunt, but it will not force any student to participate. Today is the first day of class for you new students. Your first class will be what I have just told you. If you decide to stay in the Heavenly Academy and graduate with 3 championships, then you will have to go to the Holy Evil Passage and guard there for 5 years. Not everyone can participate in the Holy Evil Hunt. Participating in the Holy Evil Hunt is voluntary, and the second is to go through a selection process. Only the strongest young magicians can enter. After today's class, those who do not wish to guard the Holy Evil Passage can immediately leave. Furthermore, the Heavenly Academy will issue a certificate to you, and you can choose the best Advanced Magician Academy in the continent to continue your studies." Hearing this, Ji Dong's face gradually calmed down, as if he was thinking about something. Yang Bingtian continued, "Ji Dong, do you know how many students have chosen to leave after the first day of class since the establishment of the Heavenly Academy 500 years ago?" Ji Dong silently shook his head. Yang Bingtian said, "Not more than 100. So few?" Ji Dong was somewhat surprised. Yang Bingtian said, "To be able to guard the Holy Evil Passage is the highest honor in the world of magicians. It is to protect our continent, to protect our motherland. Without a country, how can there be a home?" Taking a step back, for the past 500 years, besides the holy and evil hunt, both sides have never attacked each other's passageway. Going to the holy and evil passageway is the best way for a devil master. After all, even if you guard there for 5 years, you can choose not to enter the holy and evil battlefield. But if you guard there for 5 years and return to your country, not only will you receive a generous reward, you will also receive the respect of all the devil masters. You will receive the best treatment no matter where you go." Speaking up to here, Yang Bingtian paused and looked at Ji Dong with a burning gaze. Of course, the disciples of the Yin-Yang Hall must enter the holy evil hunting battlefield, this is without a doubt. Every disciple who has participated in the holy evil battlefield, as long as they can come out alive, they will receive the title of nobility in their country. However, the disciples of the Yin-Yang Hall must enter the holy evil battlefield at least twice before they are allowed to graduate. You can also choose to enter more than once, but the prerequisite is that you must not be older than 50 years old. Your senior brother, who is another official disciple of teacher, has entered the holy evil battlefield 3 times. He is invincible there and currently has the title of Earl in our Southern Fire Empire. Chapter 52. Yang Bingtian said, "For our radiant 5 elements continent, the battle in the holy evil battlefield is a holy war. We cannot afford to lose. Although there have been no ordinary soldiers participating in the war for many years, there are more than 500,000 soldiers stationed outside the Holy Evil passageway. Jidong, without a doubt, if you appear in the Holy Evil hunt as a disciple of the Inyang school, you will definitely encounter danger. Now is your last chance. Even if you choose to leave the Heavenly STEM Academy, I will not blame you. Jidong quietly looked at Yang Bingtian, then lowered his head to look at his hands. He seemed to be able to feel the temperature of the 2 sovereign marks in his palms. He did not belong to this world, so he had no idea about the Holy War. But since he had come to this world, facing the difficulties of the future, would he choose to retreat? No, of course not. Since he had come, why not live a more exciting life? Moreover, if he did not have the confidence to enter the Holy Evil battlefield, how could he be worthy of the inheritance of the 2 sovereign marks? What qualifications did he have to pursue the flaming bar? Therefore, his answer to Yang Bingtian was very simple. I am already a member of the Inyang school, number 49. Yang Bingtian smiled and said, I knew you would not choose to retreat. The first day I saw you, I saw the pride in your bones. To be honest, you have always been a little mysterious in my heart. Jidong smiled and said, because of my mixing ability? Yang Bingtian nodded and said, are you wondering why I would appear here? Why would I give up being a dean and come here to be a teacher? Actually, as early as the year you entered the academy, I had already received an invitation from the Heavenly STEM Academy. The basic requirement to become a teacher here is to be a quintuple champion. Do you still remember that omnidirectional teleportation scroll? That was a gift from the Magician Guild of the Southern Fire Empire. They hoped that I could come here and add some glory to the magicians of the Southern Fire Empire. I delayed it for 4 years, but I finally came. To be honest, I can't live without your wine. Although I can't drink it every day, as long as I can taste your wine once in a while, I will be satisfied. Looking at Yang Bingtian, Jidong's heart was moved. He said, thank you, brother. Without you, I would not be here today. Yang Bingtian laughed and said, Junior brother, you don't owe me anything at all. It should be me who has been benefiting from you. Jidong smiled and shook his head. Of course, he wouldn't tell Yang Bingtian what the omnidirectional indefinite teleportation scroll meant to his life. At this time, Zhu Rong came back from outside. Yang Bingtian hurriedly stopped smiling and respectfully lowered his head. Zhu Rong's face looked a bit ugly. Anger flashed in his eyes. He said to Yang Bingtian, have you made it clear to him? Yang Bingtian said respectfully, yes, teacher. Jidong has decided to stay in the Inyang school. Zhu Rong glanced at Jidong. His face softened a bit and said, Bingtian, you go first. Today is your first class. You should go and have a look. Yes. Yang Bingtian bowed to Zhu Rong again. Before leaving the room, he winked at Hyoheim, as if telling her to be respectful to her teacher. Jidong watched Yang Bingtian leave the room. Zhu Rong still had his hands behind his back. He slowly walked in front of Yang Bingtian and snorted. Kid, what kind of knockout drug did you feed to Zhu Rong? Knockout drug? Jidong looked at Zhu Rong confusedly. Zhu Rong said coldly, he is my younger brother. We have been together for almost 100 years. I know him too well. Zhu Rong has always been a person who does not wake up without benefit. Before yesterday, he had no reason to know you. Yet, he became brothers with you. There must be something fishy about this. I don't want my disciple to have any secrets from me. I went to ask him, but he refused to tell me. Zhu Rong had indeed gone to find Zhu Rong. However, what he asked now was not as simple as it seemed. At this moment, someone was wailing in the room. Zhu Rong, you are already so old, but you still beat me like when I was young. We are irreconcilable, Jidong said indifferently. There is one thing that you might not understand. Although I got into the Heavenly STEM Academy and joined the Inyang school, I did not ask you to teach me anything. It was you who came to me on your own accord. I do not need your teaching. If there is nothing else, I will leave. Saying this, he turned and walked outside. Zhu Rong paused for a second. He had seen students with strong personalities before, and his other official disciple was also an extremely aggressive one. However, Ji Dong was the first one who dared to talk back to him under the invisible pressure brought by Zhu Rong. Stop. Zhu Rong let out a deep growl, along with which the entire room seemed to shake. A terrifyingly great pressure abruptly burst out from Zhu Rong's body, forming an extremely great pressure that forcibly disabled Ji Dong's body from moving. Ji Dong could clearly sense that the fire elements in the entire room had suddenly become denser and denser. This was the first time that Ji Dong had encountered such a situation where he could change the intensity of the magic elements in the room with his own power. Zhu Rong said coldly, I will never take back what I said. Since I said that you are my disciple, whether you want to or not, you have to be my disciple. This is not up to you. Ji Dong only felt that the surrounding scenery had changed. His body was pulled to Zhu Rong by that incomparably strong magic power. Zhu Rong said in a deep voice, You are not discouraged in the face of a strong enemy. You face difficulties and surpass yourself. You are not afraid of power. You already have the qualities that an excellent fire magician should have. Tell me, what are the characteristics of the third fire? Zhu Rong said in a deep voice. Ji Dong said calmly, Explosive power, selfless dedication like the sun, full of vigor and proactive. Zhu Rong nodded and said, What you said is right, but it is not what I want to teach you. Whether it is the third fire or the fourth fire, there is only one thing I want to teach you, that is, aggressiveness, or in other words, aggressiveness. I have always advocated that fire magic skills have no defense, and do not need defense. If the enemy attacks from the front, you will destroy him with a stronger attack. If the enemy attacks from all directions, you will launch counterattacks in all directions. Your aggressiveness is not enough, or in other words, you are not crazy enough. Fire magic, even the fourth fire, needs crazy aggressiveness. If you can't destroy the enemy with one strike, you will destroy yourself. If you don't succeed, you will die for a noble cause. Without such a mentality, you will not be able to get the true meaning of fire magic skills. A thoughtful look appeared in Ji Dong's eyes. He was very interested in Zhu Rong's theory, because when he had just started to practice, he had the same idea as Zhu Rong. Attack is the best defense. Ji Dong once again felt his feet on the ground. Zhu Rong said coldly, Whether you're willing or not, you have to listen to me now. I can tell you that I am the ruler of all fire element students in the Heavenly STEM Academy. Even if I kill you from the academy, no one will say anything. You're already 14, almost 15, and you don't have much time left. The most important thing right now is to increase your magic power and reach the Yin-Yang School's standard as soon as possible. Before the age of 16, you have to reach 2 crowns. Therefore, from now on you cannot leave this room. I'll have someone send you your food, and there's a place for excretion in this room. Apart from these, you have to spend the rest of your time cultivating your magic power. I'll check once every 10 days, and if you can't satisfy me, then I'll let you have a taste of hell. I don't mind if you hate me. As long as you have the ability to defeat me, I can even call you teacher. However, the current you is no stronger than an ant in my eyes. I don't need you to call me teacher, but you have to do what I ask you to do. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead, but you won't be able to. After saying this, Zhu Rong walked out of the room in big step. The clanking sound of gears could be heard from the entrance. Without a doubt, Ji Dong would not be able to leave. Looking at the direction in which Zhu Rong left, Ji Dong showed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth and said, so direct, Is this the strongest third fire? I kind of like this old man. Although Zhu Rong's people had left, Ji Dong was surprised to find that the density of the fire element in this room was at least 10 times higher than that of the outside world. Although it was still not as great as the Earth core lakes, which was so great that it was almost tangible. It was definitely beneficial to Jidong's cultivation. With the help of the yin and yang swirl in his chest, although it was only the fire element, it was already enough for Jidong's cultivation. Although Zhu Rong's words were fierce, in fact, he was definitely a good teacher. After that, Jidong spent a day figuring out the time when meals would be delivered. After that, he would be teleported to the Earth Core Lake to cultivate, apart from when meals were delivered. What place would be more suitable than that to improve the abilities of a fire-attributed magic caster? In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. During these 10 days, Jidong's royal star had increased by more than half, and his dual mana had reached level 15. Even he himself was shocked by this cultivation speed. Flaming bar, my mana has leveled up again? Sitting cross-legged on the platform in the middle of the Earth Core Lake, Jidong was pleasantly surprised as he sensed the mana undulations in his body rising once again. The origin yin-yang crown had become clearer, and the yin-yang vortex had also increased in size. The radiance of the two ultimate fires in his body had also become more dazzling. The flaming bar smiled. There's nothing strange about this. I would be surprised if your cultivation speed wasn't fast. Although the main purpose of soaking in the dragon blood is to increase the strength of your body, it still has a certain stimulating effect on your mana. In the following half a month, you've been diligently cultivating here. The higher your cultivation, the better the effects of the ultimate dual fires. As flames of extreme yin and extreme yang, they are the center of all flames, allowing you to have a stronger ability to summon fire elements in the process of absorbing them. The fire elements in the Earth Core Lake are almost inexhaustible. At the same time, you've been cultivating extremely hard during this period of time. You've used up all your mana with demonic skills, and then quickly replenished it with cultivation. This process of output and input has a very good effect on your mana. As long as you can maintain this state of cultivation, it shouldn't be a problem for you to level up by 1 level every 20 days to a month before you reach the second crown. In another 3 months you should be able to reach the second crown. Just as Jidong was about to say something, the flaming bar's eyes suddenly twitched. He said, "You should go back. Someone is looking for you. That person called Zhurong isn't bad. He can be considered a powerhouse among you humans. You can rest assured and learn whatever he teaches you." The red lotus swept out, and in the next moment, Jidong had already returned to his room. At the same time, the clanging of gears could be heard from outside. The door opened, and Zhurong, who was still dressed in red and had his hair combed neatly, walked in. As soon as he entered, Zhurong's expression suddenly changed. He said, "What a little brat. You actually dared to disobey my orders and not cultivate?" As he spoke, he opened his hand, and the feeling of the air solidifying appeared once again. Zhurong stood there, and his entire person was like a god of fire descending from the heavens. His eyes were burning with anger. His body tightened, and Jidong's body was pulled closer to Zhurong by this invisible force. This feeling of not being in his own control was the most uncomfortable thing for Jidong. With a roar, he fully released his Bing and Ding fire magic. The black and white yin-yang crown instantly condensed on top of his head, and his body, which was being pulled forward, suddenly stopped for a moment. Jidong had asked the flaming bar about Zhurong's ability to forcibly control the air and pull his body. The flaming bar told him that this was a method of controlling the air with one's own magic power. Any magician could do this. Of course, the prerequisite was that the magician's magic power was strong enough, and he also needed to have a strong control over the magic power. Only when he could precisely control every fire element to solidify the air could he turn the air into his own weapon. When Zhurong used this ability, he didn't even release the yin-yang crown, which showed how profound his cultivation was. "Do you still dare to resist?" Zhurong snorted in anger. The cultivation gap between him and Jidong was way too huge. Jidong only paused for a second, before he was pulled forward again. However, at this moment, Zhurong also saw the number of stars on Ji Dong's black and white yin-yang crown, and the anger in his eyes was instantly eased. At this moment, Ji Dong let out a great growl. Along with a rumbling sound, the gold and black flames instantly replaced the red and blue flames, and rose up. The power vibration of the elements in the entire room instantly changed. The air around Ji Dong's body rippled like water, and the air that was controlled by Zhurong's fire element suddenly changed. It flew away in fear, and the solid air was instantly broken. Ji Dong's body felt light, and he had already landed on the ground. Zhurong only felt that the yin-yang crown in his chest had vibrated intensely. Even with his great power, he couldn't help but shout out in surprise, "Elemental suppression?" Chapter 53. Ji Dong silently stood there, staring at Zhurong. The dazzling flame was divided by the middle of his body. The right side was golden and the left side was deep and mysterious black. The two extreme types of flames set off Ji Dong's special temperament. The arrogance of the two emperors and the arrogance of the god of wine had merged into one. Ji Dong tightly pursed his lips and stared at Zhurong without even blinking. Zhurong's strong eyes turned a bit sluggish. He stared at the golden flame rising from Ji Dong's right hand and said word by word, "Holy fire of Bing, Wu, Yuan, Yang. Holy fire?" Ji Dong responded in a deep voice, "Even though you're my Shifu, you can't insult my dignity. You haven't even been tested. How can you say that I haven't been cultivating myself?" The two half-corona stars on the crown of the yin and yang were the best explanation. Although Zhurong didn't tell Zhurong about the fact that he had the dual fire, Ji Dong didn't intend to hide it anymore, because he didn't want the two emperors' fires to be humiliated by him. The extreme fire, the pride of an emperor, he would never allow anyone to insult it, even though he had a good impression of Zhurong, even though he had already acknowledged Zhurong as Zhurong's Shifu. "Ha ha 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 ha!" Zhurong abruptly laughed out loud. His voice vibrated the flame on Ji Dong's body, making it sway ceaselessly. In terms of nature, he could indeed suppress any kind of fire. However, the power gap between Zhurong and Ji Dong was huge. Hearing Zhurong's voice, Ji Dong felt that his blood was about to burst out of his body. However, he still gnashed his teeth and stood still, refusing to take even a step back. "I see, no wonder Zhurong took you as his brother. You have such a huge secret. Good, this is great. Old water monster, I'd like to see how you can compete with me this time. Water suppresses fire. Show me how to suppress the extreme yang fire, ha ha." Looking at Zhurong, Ji Dong knitted his eyebrows, restrained his pair of extreme flames, and silently stood there without saying a word. Zhurong stopped laughing, then his look turned serious again and said, "Ji Dong, do you know why I told you that you didn't cultivate yourself the moment I came in?" Ji Dong shook his head. Zhurong said, "That's because the third fire elements I injected into this room have not decreased in the slightest. If you had cultivated, in 10 days, you should have absorbed at least 60% of the third fire element." Ji Dong suddenly understood. He had been cultivating himself in the earth core lake these past few days, so it was naturally impossible for him to absorb the third fire elements in this room. That was why Zhurong had such a reaction when he came in. Zhurong walked up to Ji Dong with big steps, patted his shoulder, and nodded satisfyingly. "I don't know how you got this pair of extreme flames, and I don't want to know either. From you, I can see the future of the fire element. My demonic skills mainly focus on external release. Therefore, you can only start learning after you have achieved 2 crowns. From now on, I will no longer restrict your freedom. You can cultivate on your own. Even if you can't achieve 2 crowns before the age of 16, I won't let you leave the Yin-Yang school. I only have one request, and that is, during your cultivation, you must focus on safety, and do not take any risk. Also, don't show your pair of extreme flames in front of anyone for now. With your current power, you are still far from being able to release their true power. Nodding, Jidong indicated that he understood. Zhu Rong rubbed Jidong's head, unable to hide the happiness in his heart. He couldn't help but reveal a thick smile on his face as he said, "Go, you've been cooped up in your room for so many days. Go out and relax." Although the third fire is the representation of masculinity, too much of it is easy to break. Communicate with other students, take a walk in the city, relax your mind, it will be good for you. If you go out, remember to bring your tablet. The tablet of the Enyang school can be used in the entire continent. No one will dare to offend you. Go. Zhu Rong's gaze was still very passionate, but the feeling of passion had changed. Jidong only felt that when this teacher looked at him, it was as if he was looking at a peerless treasure. His originally cold and forceful tone had been completely replaced by a caring one. He even felt as if he was afraid that he would melt in his mouth, and afraid that he would fall if he was held in his hands. It was time to go out and buy some wine. Last time, Yang Bingtian had given him more than 400 gold coins, which was enough to last for a long time. The taste of the flaming bar had been raised by Jidong to be more and more picky. Although she never said anything, Jidong only wanted to give her the best. Watching Jidong walk out of the room, Zhu Rong suddenly jumped up and laughed crazily in the room, saying, "Born with the Bingwu primordial yang fire, Jidong, oh Jidong, you've really given me a big surprise. When you grow up, will the Heavenly STEM Academy still have the turn to be in charge of the earth element? I really want to see old Shui and old Lung as soon as possible to see your innate extreme yang fire. I can't tell others, but I have to tell Xingqian as soon as possible. His black flame should also be the extreme yin fire. Otherwise, how can the ordinary fourth fire coexist with the Bingwu primordial yang fire? 10 years, I only need 10 years. I'll make that brat Jidong the ruler of the holy evil battlefield." Jidong had been cultivating in the Earth's core lake for a long time and was hungry. Leaving the room, he decided to go to the canteen to eat something, then look for Kar and Bisso, the two brothers he hadn't seen for 10 days, to walk around the city and buy all kinds of wine to replenish his stock. It was noon, and when Jidong arrived at the canteen of the Enyang school, there were already dozens of people eating there. As soon as he walked in, he felt a lot of eyes on him. Without a doubt, it was because Zhu Rong had called him brother last time, but it was hard to say whether it was a good or bad thing. Jidong took some food and found an empty corner to eat. Not long after he started eating, another person appeared at the table. It was Ji Yesheng of the earth element. "Jidong," Ji Yesheng called out in a low voice. Jidong raised his head and looked at him. He didn't have a good impression of Ji Yesheng. Ji Yesheng said in a low voice, "Jidong, Boss Fury has returned to the academy, and he knows about the guild. He's looking for you, so be careful. I heard you have a good relationship with Zhu Rong. If possible, you should be with him. No one can withstand Boss Fury's anger. Alright, you eat first, I'll be leaving." With that, he hurriedly stood up and walked away as if to avoid arousing suspicion. However, Jidong still didn't feel at ease eating. As soon as Ji Yesheng left, 2 familiar faces took his place. It was the 5th-ranked First Wood Grandmaster, Long Tian, and the 9th Water Grandmaster, Shui Ruhan. Jidong nodded to them and said, "Seniors, what's the matter? We haven't seen each other for 10 days. Jidong, how does it feel to join our Enyang school?" Long Tian asked with a smile. Jidong smiled faintly and said, "It's all right." Shui Ruhan said, "Jidong, I'll get straight to the point. I heard you have a good relationship with Zhu Rong, and we've always admired him. Can you introduce us to him? We'll treat him to a meal. He can choose any restaurant in the Central Plains." Jidong's heart moved. It was obvious that Shui Ruhan and Long Tian had come for the magic weapon. It seemed that Zhu Rong was really in high demand. "Seniors, I can only ask him for you. As for whether he'll agree or not, that's hard to say." Ji Dong still had some admiration for these two seniors who had once used the magical healing combination magic skill. Long Tian and Shui Ruhan's eyes were filled with joy. Shui Ruhan said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, brother. If you need any help in the future, feel free to come to us. We've been in the academy for nearly 20 years, after all. We're all too familiar with this place." Okay. Ji Dong didn't stand on ceremony and directly agreed. At this moment, a sudden voice sounded from the entrance of the canteen. "Who is Ji Dong?" The voice that suddenly appeared was deep and resounding. Every word seemed to contain explosive power, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. Long Tian and Shui Ruhan, who were sitting opposite Ji Dong, were shocked at the same time. They turned their heads to look at the entrance. Ji Dong also looked through the gap between the two and saw a sturdy man standing at the entrance of the canteen like an iron tower. He had a head of short purple hair that resembled steel needles. He was at least 2 meters tall and looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. Even teacher Xia Tian, Ji Dong's teacher from the Fire Academy, was slightly inferior to this person in terms of physique. His sharp and impetuous face revealed a resolute and powerful force. The purple clothes he wore were different from any other school uniform. If Zhu Rong was said to be steady and powerful, then this person was said to be flamboyant and extremely domineering. In the canteen, there were either Yin Yang Hall's disciples or teachers. All of them were outstanding talents in the world of magic masters. However, when this person appeared, the entire canteen fell silent. Ji Dong could clearly see that most people actually revealed expressions of fear. What did one person rely on to suppress the entire crowd? Strength. Long Tian said in a low voice, "The Thunder Emperor has returned." "Who is Ji Dong?" The Thunder Emperor Fury, who was standing at the entrance of the canteen, asked once again. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate everything as they coldly swept across everyone in the canteen like lightning. Putting down the food in his hands, Ji Dong slowly stood up and said, "That's me." The moment he stood up, Fury's gaze shot towards him from tens of meters away. Their gazes met, and Ji Dong felt as if his eyes had been pierced by needles. He immediately felt an immense pressure that he had never felt before. It was a pressure on the spiritual level. The meeting between Ji Dong and Fury this time would be known as the first gaze of a tyrant and the Thunder Emperor in the future. Without a doubt, Ji Dong, who had yet to reach the level of a double champion, was at a complete disadvantage. His body swayed, and his mind went blank for a short period of time. He pressed his hands against the table, causing his joints to protrude. However, he still managed to stabilize his body and did not fall down. When the Thunder Emperor Fury saw Ji Dong's childish face, a hint of confusion and bewilderment flashed in his eyes. However, his following words caused the entire canteen to be in an uproar. "Ji Dong, do you dare to accept my challenge?" Every word that came out of the Thunder Emperor Fury's mouth was like thunder exploding in Ji Dong's ears. His overbearing aura made it hard for him to breathe. Don't accept his challenge. It's okay for a high-ranking disciple of the Yin Yang Hall to challenge a low-ranking disciple, Long Tian said anxiously. He and Shui Ruhan stood up at the same time. After all, they were sitting at the same table as Ji Dong. Shui Ruhan furrowed her brows and said, "Boss Fury, bullying a newcomer doesn't seem to be your style." The Thunder Emperor swept a cold glance at the two of them and said, "Shut up. This is between him and me. Ji Dong, do you dare to accept my challenge?" Ji Dong was the only one in the cafeteria who knew what Fury was talking about. The president of the Bartender Guild's Central Plains City branch was here to get back at him. Time and place. Ji Dong's reply was concise and forceful. At the same time, it caused the entire canteen to be in an uproar. A few pairs of female eyes looked at the fearless Ji Dong in shock. Their eyes were filled with splendor. An elderly teacher stood up and said, "Fury, don't mess around. Ji Dong has just joined the Yin Yang Hall." The Thunder Emperor was unmoved. He said coldly, I've already said that this is between him and me. Even when facing a teacher, he did not give them any face. His overbearing attitude was not formed in a day or two. Shifting his gaze, Hyoheim moved and said, You decide the time and place. The coldness in Ji Dong's gaze was not inferior to the other parties. He walked out from behind the table and walked towards the Thunder Emperor. He said, Now your room. I hope you don't disappoint me. Long Tian and Shui Ruhen's faces had already turned pale after being glanced at by the Thunder Emperor. When they saw Ji Dong walking towards Fury, a trace of admiration flashed in their eyes. A student of the Heavenly STEM Academy dared to accept the Thunder Emperor's challenge head-on. Furthermore, he did not seem to be at a disadvantage in terms of aura. In the past 10 years, Ji Dong was the first to do so. Furthermore, he seemed to be provoking the Thunder Emperor. A female student said in a low voice, He's too cool. Fire attribute demonic masters are still the coolest. Another female student beside her giggled and said, Cool on the inside or outside? Are you talking about the Thunder Emperor or Ji Dong? Both. I heard that Ji Dong is only 14 years old. He's so young, yet he already has such an imposing aura. Looks like a new star is about to appear in the fire attribute. Fire attribute demonic masters focus on aura. Many years ago, the Thunder Emperor had the nickname of killing you with his gaze. I don't know if Ji Dong will become a new star of the fire attribute, but I can be sure that if no one stops him, even if he doesn't die, he will at least lose a layer of skin. You should be praying for him,